Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Welcome to the AV Experience Podcast. What is up, Jonathan?
Hey.
He joins us right on time.
I love his haircut too, man.
Yeah. He's going shorter like me. One day he will end up like me.
My wife says it's thin up there when she cut me last time. It's happening.
Yeah. See, my wife wanted me to hold on to it, and I'm just like, no, it's leaving. It's going away.
I just cut mine yesterday, man.
You cut your own hair?
I do. I have for like 30 years, man.
You just use
those clippers, man.
Clippers?
I use number 4. Yeah. One length. Then I just get Jessica to trim up the back. But yeah, man. Started off with haircuts. Hope you guys had a haircut this week. We have. Let me say hi to some folks in the chat. Miles, good to see you, man. Tango, Finster, Mandrell. Who else we got? Jonathan, good to see you, man. SRW 1000, Tarhoya, Chris, Boyd, Howard, Kevin, Fred. What's going on, everybody? So
look at this. Michael, 125,000 now?
Yeah, I did.
Congratulations.
Bots.
Just crossed
bots.
it.
All bots.
No, so the crazy thing, and I can even show you, man. My channel has been very, very just linear over the past 5 years. And I did that YouTube short at Audio Vice Live. And from that one crazy video, let me go here. It generated like 11,000 new subscribers in 1 month from that video.
Bots.
No, I'm buying nothing, dude.
Bots.
I'll show you.
He buys his views, ladies and gentlemen. That's how he does it.
That's it, dude.
That's how he does it.
Now you may not be able to see it. All right. So this is, let's see if I can make it. It probably ain't. Is that going to focus?
Yeah, I can see it. It just flat line and then it immediately jumps straight up.
Dude, that thing is crazy. 11 million views, 11.4 million views. What's funny is it says 11.4 million more than usual for my short. I'm like, dang, man. 10,000.
Just rubbing it in your face.
I know it. 10,000 subscribers from that one short. That's crazy. And that video made $747 on a short. Insane, man.
Rolling.
Yeah. I don't know about rolling, but yeah, that's crazy. But 12 million views in the past 28 days, 195,000 watch time hours, and 11.6 thousand subscribers in 28 days. So pretty crazy, man. Yeah. I love this one. Those M-Wave registration fees, just buy more bots for youth, man. For sure.
Yeah, that's our whole plan. That's how we do this.
That's hilarious, man. Cool deal, man. All right, let's jump on into it, man. You guys, Jonathan, you had a little get together over the weekend, man. I wish more people would have showed up.
I had 2 get-togethers this weekend, which was kind of fun.
Cool. Yeah. Tell us about it.
So Friday night was supposed to be a neighborhood get-together, and this is our 3rd one, and we've had 4 or 5 families at the other ones, and I expected there to be that many this time, but there was only 2 kids that showed up. So it was kind of like not worth getting all the stuff out, but we still had a good time.
Sure.
And Saturday night we had some 3 families over from church. So partial families, not the whole families, but that was nice. So we filled up the room down here and we watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and that was a good time.
Nice.
And my kids got into it, man. This is pretty fun. Today at church, my daughter's telling me, she goes, I just love watching people's eyes the first time they come down to your theater, and they've never experienced anything like that. And I'm thinking, like, well, I love that too, you know.
Yeah. Who said that?
My 11-year-old, my daughter, Lillian.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fun, man. And that's the joy of it. It's like for us to be able to share that passion with somebody that's never experienced anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. You guys in Kansas and even Illinois and Wisconsin, you have a really unique, and I mean, it's definitely different. People down here, we don't get a chance to experience like really awesome home theaters like that very often. So people come over to mine and they're like, dude, I ain't got nothing like this. This is crazy, you know? They always ask me, they say, you got like butt kickers? I'm like, nope. I'm like, damn, cool. It's like, you know, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's always fun when after the demo ends, like, because I haven't played on the PC, like those little Dolby Atmos clips. They'll play on the PC, and then after the end, you'll hear people just like say, like, oh my gosh, or like start laughing, just like a low laugh. That's fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. Jason, good to see you, buddy. Glad you're enjoying the podcast. We try to keep it educational here, have some fun, but also provide some value. So with that said, if you got questions, definitely drop those in the chat. We'll
I've
just
already
hit them
been
in.
starring them.
We'll just hit them in the order that they come in, and hopefully in the next couple weeks, now that we're done with CEDIA. So I'm done with all of my trade shows for this year. I had 5 of them back to back to back to back over the past 3 months. And so I'm still cranking out videos from CEDIA. I've got one video to do from Scott Newby's event. I've got, of course, a bunch of reviews I've got to get through. And then there was one more I'm forgetting. Oh, I've got a home theater tour. Matthew Pose has an awesome home theater. That was a great interview as well. Matthew just really knows his stuff. He's on Audioholics channel a lot. Just a really, really nice guy, and even designs home theaters on the side. So, or actually, I don't know. That might even be his full-time business now. But either way, just a great guy. So I've got to get that video edited as well. So lots of great, fun stuff coming up in the coming week. So if you got questions, just drop them in the chat, and we'll jump on it. How about that? Anything you guys got?
Oh,
Okay.
I froze.
What's that?
I froze.
Oh, I see that. Wow.
I'm very.
Man.
I was
Anybody
very into it at that moment.
Anybody surprised he wasn't smiling?
No.
Hey, I did see your photo in from CEDIA.
I smile sometimes.
You did, dude. I was like, whoa, I need to like save that on my phone to prove to people you do smile.
Sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Zachary says Matt is the best. He's a great dude, man. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. SRW 1000 Pose would be a fun guest sometime in the future. Yeah, I'd be glad to have Matthew on. Good dude. All right, let's jump on it, man. So Carly says, what's up, guys? Quick question. Can you use a 6 on speaker on an 6 ohm speaker on an 8 ohm amplifier? Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I guess to keep in mind is
you're supposed to tell people no, it'll blow up.
Nah. So, and I'm not an expert at this, but I used to think that when a speaker said it was 8 ohm, that meant at all times it's just 8 ohms. And what I later learned is it really sometimes even just depends on the frequency that's playing. So, prime example, I've got the I know the Klipsch, the original Klipsch RF7s, the original versions. They're 8 ohm speakers. But during certain frequencies, and when you're really driving them, they can dip down to like 2 something ohms. So it's under 3 ohms. And so that impedance can change on your amplifier. So it'll pull more wattage, I guess, from that amplifier, depending on what that ohms load is. So yeah, so that shouldn't be absolutely any problem having an 8 ohm or a 6 ohm speaker, and you've got an 8 ohm amplifier. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, but that's my understanding of it.
That's true. The closer you go down to like 2 ohms, 1 ohm, it becomes harder for the amplifier to drive. So there are limitations. Like if you have a 2 ohm speaker, you can't put it on an 8 ohm amplifier. It'll overheat it and power it down.
And on his question, he's got a 6 ohm.
You should be fine there.
8 ohm amplifier.
I think it's worth showing. I'm going to pull this up real quick on the share screen. It's worth showing exactly what you're talking about because that's a good point. Can you see? Can you see this little chart here as an example?
Yes.
So this would be charted as a 4 ohm speaker because you can see this is 5, and actually might say it's a 6, but it should theoretically be whatever the lowest impedance is. So on this left side, on this vertical line is ohm, and on the right is frequency. So here's 20 hertz, and here's 200 hertz, and here's 10,000 hertz. So this is what Mike was talking about, where the impedance, the ohm rating varies per frequency response. It's not a flat line.
Nope.
So basically they're rating it at the lowest impedance on the speaker. If you get a 4 ohm subwoofer, theoretically it shouldn't go below 4 ohm, but those numbers are kind of like a little loose sometimes.
Sure.
And so there's that too.
That's cool, man. See, I've never seen that graph. That was pretty awesome.
It's different for every driver. So that, yes. I mean, if you look up your particular drivers, you'll find that impedance plot.
Are you talking about like a full speaker or the individual drivers?
Every driver
is going to be different.
And then the speaker will be a combination of those drivers as well.
Yep.
Nice. I gotcha. So yeah, but like Jonathan said, the lower the ohms, I mean, I remember back in the car audio days, if you had, say, for instance, I mean, you could wire multiple subwoofers to change that impedance. You could wire them in series, or you could wire them in parallel, and to pull more wattage out of the amplifier. But if you didn't have a beefy amplifier and you're running like 212s and they're both 4 ohms, and you run them in, I think, parallel, now that amplifier is seen as a 2 ohm load, and not a lot of amplifiers can handle 2 ohm.
Well,
Back
car
in the
audio
day,
typically does it differently, where they're actually intentionally trying to get closer down to 2
Correct.
ohms and 1 ohms because you're able to pull more power out of that.
Correct.
Whereas home theater is the opposite. You're going for less efficient. You're going for closer to more often 8 ohms load. So it's not really apples to apples, but it's the same kind of concept. Just depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, usually you're not, combining multiple speakers, but that's one danger. I've had people say, hey, Michael, can I like hook up let's just say 2 center channels to my center channel output? Not a great thing, because now you're changing that impedance. There's other issues you can run into as well, but just the physical limitations of that AVR, you really don't want to be plugging in multiple speaker wires and speaker cables on the back of your AVR to a single output. Definitely not advisable there. So Jonathan says, Jonathan, were you able to test the Arundel to see if they can do a reference?
Yeah, and I'm going to be very cautious here, because I bought a SPL meter just to make sure that my Omni mic is reading correctly, because these speaker companies live and die on their reputation and these objective tests, and we don't want to put bad data out there by any stretch of the imagination. But on my testing from 10 foot away, I just did it. Let me aim it over here.
Yeah, sure.
So you can see, I was doing that today. So you can see the mic is set up over my center seat, and the speakers are right there, just on the front, left and right. They were not able to go even close to reference, assuming my Omni mic hasn't drifted and the calibration is correct. That's why I bought an SPL meter, just to make sure that, because I shouldn't even be saying this until I validate, but it is a $300 mic. It does have a calibration file. It's all loaded. I have no reason to believe it's not correct. I just want to make sure it's correct.
You've compared that against my Earthworks and stuff, so it should be accurate. I mean, they're virtually identical.
Yeah.
So and my Omni mic is virtually identical to my Earthworks. The Earthworks does a little bit better at the low end, but the Omni mic is close enough.
And so you were probably doing like what, compression testing?
I was doing compression sweeps
up slowly.
Okay. So I level matched everything to 75 dB, the front, left, and right, turned off the subs. I just had an 80 hertz crossover as if the subs were playing, like a normal use scenario, and I turned the subs off.
Okay.
And I just started stepping up 5 dB at a time. And I overlaid those frequency responses. And when they stop rising in parallel, you're hitting the limits of your speaker or your amplifier.
Right.
I had the AV10 as a source. I had a Crown XLS 402 amplifier as the amplifier.
So you got a lot of power.
Yeah, plenty of pro audio power, plenty of power, legit plenty of power. And then I just, saw where the plots stopped going in parallel. And it's about, I mean, unless something's wrong, and that's why I got that SPL meter coming to validate before I go hogs out on this. they're 10 or 15 dB shy of reference capable on the top end. On the top end, at the 20 hertz end.
Okay.
So at 20 hertz, that last plot starts. It doesn't rise in unison anymore. It actually starts trailing off hard, and that's saying I'm getting too hot. I can't produce it, and that happens almost immediately. So if I start playback on the sweeps, every single sweep will be a little lower than the previous one. And if you keep that going, that tweeter is going to get hotter and hotter and self-destruct at some point.
Okay.
But I mean, at 20,000 hertz, you're getting into above human hearing.
Absolutely true.
So theoretically, you could put a curtain on it and remove that.
Or if you like the cinema filter, they call it that X cinema filter that's popular, that just rolls everything off above 12,000 hertz. That's possible too. But what will happen is that tweeter heats up. That point, that knee will start moving to the left on the graph. So maybe it's not at 20,000 hertz anymore. Maybe then it drops to 15,000 and then 12,000 and 10,000. And ultimately, you're not getting. You're right, Ryan. You can't hear that, but at some point you're not getting what you want. And I stopped way short of going to reference. I didn't even go to a 95 dB sweep. So I went 105 at the seats. I stopped 10 dB short.
You're not able to hear it, but your ears will be able to pick up potentially the distortion and the breakup.
as it gets worse, I
Yes.
didn't want to damage the speaker, and I did both speakers in case there was something that was just wrong with one of the speakers or something, but both behaved the same way, the left and the right. So initial feedback is those are not particularly reference capable cinema speakers, and that's not terribly off our expectation, right? Because they have a soft dome style tweeter. And
Sure.
we've talked about on the show before, those individuals as a single unit are not usually reference capable.
Right.
So not huge surprising. When I validate everything's legit with the SPL meter,
Right.
just to double check, then I'll make a video on it and I'll publish it out, and people can make their own decision. If you only want to listen to your speakers say -10, or you don't go as high as reference, but it probably doesn't matter. It's what you individually like.
Yeah.
Well, looking at your compression test, it looks like that starts falling off well before 20K.
Yes. I don't want to dig into this too much.
We won't. I'll just leave
because
it
I want to be fair to Arundel. I want to make sure that doing everything I can to make sure it's absolutely accurate. So that's why I bought the SPL meter. Let's talk about it more next week.
And one thing too is even feel free to reach out to them directly and say, hey, look here, because I've done that before. I'm like, hey, here's what I'm finding on my end. Does that line up with what you're seeing on your end? And there may be something there, or they may say, yeah, absolutely, that's where we're at.
Yeah, so I don't mind doing that. And to be fair, I mean, I've tested multiple speakers before, and I haven't seen a soft dome yet as an individual unit that can do it. So I'm not sure what the expectation is from people, but it is what it is. Like you need multiples, or you need a different type of driver to get reference usually.
I mean, look at what Perlisson does. It's not even a single tweeter. They've got that 3 tweeter array or whatever they're doing in order to be able to push to those volumes. So I think if you ever really see a soft dome tweeter, you should be leery, in my opinion, on the SPL indications that they're pushing out. But we'll have to wait and see what your SPL meter yields. So I don't want to
I'm curious.
go down that path without it being verified.
Yep.
Maybe I can come over and bring the Earthworks too, and we can use multiple calibration mics and see what we get.
Yeah. Just make sure. Robert says, I have high-end towers, but no center to match. Pros and cons of not using a center for surround sound setup. 4.1.
Some people actually prefer it that way. Your main detractor there is if you're anywhere but the main listening position, you're going to get a substandard experience. So the center channel is going to allow you to get a better, more uniform experience across the listening environment, but some people prefer the Phantom Center, and it's also going to be dependent on what speakers you have. So if you've got like a TV, some people like the Phantom Center because it makes the sound like it's coming from the TV instead of from below or above it. There's pros and cons to both, but the center channel is doing most of the work in the home theater. So it's kind of one of those speakers, in my opinion, that you really shouldn't skimp on if you can not skimp on it. So I think dedicated center is going to be better than Phantom virtually universally.
Sure.
That's my opinion.
I share it.
I'm with you. Nadev, thanks so much for the $5 super sticker. Appreciate the support, brother. And let me know if he had a question. I don't see one. So if you did, make sure I highlight that. Little wiki says, what's the best way to integrate subs and tactile transducers? Are there certain tools or tests within RAW? I have a 2x4 HD U mic and dual PB16s. They want to integrate subwoofers as well as tactile transducers. So what are some tips that you can give to him on how to set that up? Does he have all the equipment that he needs? Is there anything else he needs?
Jonathan, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 20-minute conversation, and we had it in a few podcasts back. I don't know if we'd be able to find it in quick order, but effectively, you need to have a negative delay, and everyone's going to shine up in the corners. You can't have a negative delay. You can if you follow these steps. You need to have a negative delay for your transducers because they need to fire before your subs typically. So the way you do that is you use your 2x4 mini DSP or whatever other device you have, and you put a delay on your subwoofers so that then you have no delay on your output from your mini DSP that goes to your tactile transducers. So that's how you're getting your negative delay. So for instance, my near field subs are immediately next to my seats, right? Well, the AVR thinks that they're like 14 feet away because I have a delay put on them so that they don't measure the 2 or 3 feet that they would normally measure. There's actually a 7 millisecond delay on them. That gives me 7 milliseconds to make the butt kickers, in my case, butt kicker advances, fire faster. From there, man, it's all subjective preference. Like you can do parametric EQ or filters, shelf filters, that kind of stuff to what you like to feel. And it's going to be different per person and it's going to be different per chair. So there's not a singular answer. We've talked about this before. You really have to dial in the timing. It needs to be within like a hundredth of a second, a hundredth of a couple hundredths of a millisecond before a second before you would, like, you'll notice it being off. You'll get like a double kick on a kick drum or something if you don't have that timed in there right. So there's not any tools that I'm aware of. I think Ryan, you might have figured out something with some tools, but I just do it all by feel and by ear.
No, the best way is to do it by feel and get into a song that's going to be able to, or a track that you can repeat and make sure that you're feeling the timing and what makes sense to you. It's going to be, try, rinse, repeat, try, rinse, repeat, try, rinse, repeat.
It's going to be different per song. You're going to think you have it dialed in, and you're going to pick the very next song, and it's going to be a little different. So you're going to kind of have to average songs, if you will. And slow, deep dubstep type bass is not the stuff you want to set it with. It's going to feel fine on that for any delay setting if it's real deep bass because the wavelength's so long.
I like using chocolate chip trip with the kick drum. That's the one that I liked using. But you got to make sure that your not your crossover, but your curtains and stuff are set appropriately for your tactile transducers to make sure that they're actually going to reproduce the sounds that you're trying to send to them. Because if they're not set correctly, or set how you want them to be, and your curtain set lower, then you may not even hear them.
I'm going to use the words low cut and high cut because that's a better way to people. So let's say if you have a cheap transducer, you're probably going to want a low cut because it's not going to be able to produce those really low frequencies. It's going to bottom out or make bad sounds or just feel weird. For most transducers, if you get on the bigger side that are capable of the lowest stuff, you're probably going to want a high cut filter because they're not going to do as well on the highest frequencies. So like my butt kicker advance, I use a 37 hertz roll off up above. And I think it's like 12 dB or something per octave. I'd have to look it up to remember exactly. But that helps like eliminate some of the higher kick drum stuff from the butt kicker advance, which feels real mechanical and kind of not right. It makes it feel right by having that high cut filter. You can also call it a low pass filter. High cut and low pass are the same thing. It's really just subjectively playing around with it and figure out what works for you with your chairs, with your preferences.
Speaking of the chocolate chip, is that from Tool?
Yes.
Cool. So if he wanted to dive deeper into that, you have a good resource for him?
There is a excellent thread on AVS forum where people go way over the top. What is that thread called, Ryan? Do you remember? Tactile? I'll find it. I'll put it in chat.
I don't remember what it's called. I'd have to go look for it.
Because it's one of those things, like Jonathan said, this isn't something that he can just kind of teach you in, a 3-minute podcast segment. So
it takes time to be able to dial in, and you definitely need a negative delay. It doesn't work without it. You can think it works, but it doesn't feel right. It's one of those things that once you experience it done correctly, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. But until you do that, it doesn't make complete sense because you're gonna be like, whoa, well, negative delay, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why would I want to do that? But once you experience it and feel the time alignment of everything hitting appropriately, even though you thought it was appropriate before, it all falls into place. It's one of those things once you know.
I put it in private chat, and one of you guys will have to share it out in the public chat. Okay. So, yes, that's absolutely true, and it even goes to the level of like an M-Wave. I heard a guy who said he'd been in the industry for like 25 years. He said tactile transducers don't work. Don't ever use them. They're never good. I've felt a lot of them. They're never any good. Well, that's his experience because he hasn't felt them set up properly. Right. And if you're a discerning enthusiast, like if you really, I've been to plenty of people's houses say, this feels great. Don't you love this butt kicker? And you feel it. And it's like, no, I don't love this.
Correct.
There's people who just don't care. They think it's just fun to have rumble and it's not on time and they don't care. But if you're a discerning individual, you're not going to like it unless you have it set up right. And like that guy was that experience. Like he's been in a lot of systems. He said, just ignore them. They're not worth implementing. That's not true. You just have to implement them correctly. And it takes time and energy and dedication to get there. So that thread we shared out there, it's got thousands of posts, 14,000 posts. You get lost in it. But that is where you'll go to get hardcore information. They got all kinds of stuff.
You can ask great questions there too. So like if you get stuck on something, hey guys, I'm at this point of it, I'm not understanding this, then you got a huge resource of individuals that are well informed, and they can say, okay, here's what's going on, here's what you need to do, here's the setting, here's what I would try.
Yeah,
so,
very good community.
Good stuff, man. Let me scroll back up here. James says, question, any thoughts on speaker types for a small dedicated treated room? Should it go with wide dispersion, narrow dispersion, coaxial drivers?
They all sound different, man. What do you like?
That's a tough one.
Yeah. There's probably 3 answers here on this crew here.
In small rooms, it's going to be dependent on you can go any direction, really.
So he's got a dedicated room, treated room.
Well, does he want to hit reference? And how small is small? Small is subjective.
Mm-hmm. I think
you need to get some experience, James. Those speakers will all sound different, and they'll all sound different with the wall treatments too. Like each one has coaxes have their own sound. Narrow dispersion and broad dispersion have their own sound.
Sure.
We can't tell you what you would like. That's an impossible question.
If you can, all over the questions tonight. Sorry,
but they want to.
Yeah, I mean, if you can find on AVS forum, there's area meet threads. Or on the Discord channel, if you can find some people in your area, go listen to some different speakers and see what you like, what kind of thing appeals to your ear.
Always recommend that. Chris says, so kind of scary question. I don't even want to know. I discovered I had a wire cross at the amp of one of my towers, negative wire going to the positive on a speaker and vice versa. Hope that's not too much of a problem, is it?
No, it'll just be out of phase.
So you had it just crossed as far as like one on the wrong thing. Yeah.
It'll just be out of phase.
The sound is good.
No, it'd sound the same if all the speakers were the same way.
Right.
But if not, one's going to be out of phase to all the other ones.
Yeah. But you're not harming it.
No.
So
no, and a good way to imagine this, if you take like a 5 hertz tone on a sealed subwoofer and you put them out of phase, you can actually watch them fire it out of phase. Like the subwoofer drivers are moving differently. So that's all you're doing is you're just reversing which direction it first fires.
Right.
By switching the wires.
And a lot of times how I've experienced back with my Martin Logans is when they're out of phase, the image, it sounds like it's outside the speaker instead of in the middle. It moves, and it's a very easy way to detect it when you're trying to focus on imaging. Like if you put up a song, a 2-channel like Adele's Hello, where she's supposed to be right in the middle and she should be right there. If she's over here, you're probably out of phase. And you
even outside the left and right sometimes out of phase.
It sounds really weird. Some people like it. Like it sounds huge, but it's diffused and there's no real imaging.
No focal point.
Nope, not at all.
Jason, appreciate the $10 super chat. Got a question here. He says, what are your thoughts on AVRs or processors with directional sub implementations and your thoughts about the idea in general? So this is something somewhat new to the home theater space, being able to have directional sub implementation. So what are your thoughts on that?
It can be very hard to set up.
Have you experienced that yet?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very hard to set up. The only way to really do it correctly is if all your subs are virtually perfectly flat in the room.
Okay. Interesting.
Because your subs aren't really going to be firing together anymore. They're going to be individual. So you're not going to get that support anymore from having multiple subs. So you're sacrificing your frequency response for location-based low frequency. So if you have a great room, it can be decent, but you also have to be very careful about where they're actually coming from, because you can get wave cancellations and all kinds of other things depending on what's going on. It's very hard to set up.
So I'll be honest, when I first heard about this, people were talking about in the home theater space about being able to localize where the bass is coming from. And my first inclination is that's marketing BS. Like, it doesn't make sense to me because you can't really hear low frequencies. So if you've got your subwoofers, say, crossed over, or your towers crossed over, let's say at 60 hertz, 70 hertz, and you've got that bass going to your subwoofers, say 70 hertz and below, you shouldn't ever be able to localize where that bass is coming from. Fast forward, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months later, I went to, I think it was Audio Advice Live, and one of the rooms had it set up to where I think they had 4 subwoofers, and they had 4 independent outs on the AVR, and they were using that. They were using the bass localization. And it was interesting because there was a particular scene where I want to say it was like Kong, and he was moving from, say, for instance, left to right. And when he did, and I wasn't even listening for it. I just happened to, I'm like, whoa, what just happened? I heard the bass move from the left subwoofer to the right subwoofer. And I went, how is that even possible? Like, that it doesn't make sense. And maybe you guys can help me understand, like, is that even possible to hear it transition from one? Because my thought is the only way you could really hear it is if they start like playing higher frequencies to where your brain can localize that bass. Am I misunderstanding that or what?
No, you got it right. So 80 hertz THX decided was about the frequency where most humans stop losing directional sense.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, though, if you elevate your bass, and we've talked about this before, if you elevate your bass 10 dB hot over your frequency, over your main speakers, that has to trail down to your main speakers.
Okay.
So even if your crossover is at 80 hertz, by elevating this, you've made that trail off higher in the frequencies. So you might actually be hitting 150 or 200 hertz on your main speaker here by the time that bass elevates down. So you're not, what I'm trying to say is, if you elevate your bass, you're not at an 80 hertz crossover anymore.
Okay.
You're at whatever that new intersection point is, because you raise this line and then out trails down.
So
they might have,
it's somehow playing some of those higher frequencies.
Oh, it definitely is.
Okay.
Depends on how they had it set up. If they elevated the bass purposely, that's one way to do it. They may have just increased the crossover to 120 hertz or 150 hertz so that you would get more of that same feel, and then elevated the bass and made it crossover at like 300 hertz or something. So there's
so
kind of ways to cheat it. If you just did a reference flat thing and there was no elevated bass and you set an 80 hertz crossover, I'm kind of in your camp, Michael, that I don't think you'd hear much difference.
Yeah, it was weird. Like I said, I heard it and I'm like, that was bizarre because I've never heard bass move from one speaker.
But remember, guys, we're not just hearing the sub. You're also hearing the room. You also have senses outside of your hearing that allow you to localize different things. So as things move, you're not just hearing it, you're also feeling it. And that's why having subs in different locations is helpful. If you just had one sub in the front left corner, your sense of feeling is potentially going to be able to localize that, at least in my experience.
Have you ever had bass move across your front?
Yeah, I've used the expert bass modes in the Storm. You can definitely do it. I've had in that same scene, in Ready Player One, I've had the bass move from the front to the back, and it just kind of comes through the room, which was super cool.
Yeah,
but it wasn't necessarily that you could hear it; you could feel it from the pressurization and it coming from a different direction. So it was just I won't say you can hear it outside of what Jonathan is describing, but remember that even in our home theater experiences, it's not just our eyes and our ears that we're taking things in. We're also feeling the low frequency. So if you can feel it, like, this is why I don't like just having subs behind me, or people say, oh, I'm doing my subs just with near field. Well, you're going to be able to feel that potentially, and you're going to be able to localize where that is. So that kind of takes away the whole immersive experience to me. And that's why I think it's really important to have standard subwoofers, or what I would say long or standard field subwoofers in other parts of the room, because you're not as able to localize them as long as they're dispersed throughout the room. Because if you can localize things, it takes away from that experience that we're trying to get ourselves drawn into.
Yeah.
So I had planned, and I just haven't made time for it, but since I got that AV10 this summer, I planned to do exactly what you're suggesting and have like 2 subs in each corner, 2 of my 18s, and then have a group of people over to do like a day-long test with it and see what we think. I haven't done it yet myself. I don't know yet. I did do front and rear subwoofers. So this was front and this was rear.
Okay.
And we played some Top Gun Maverick clips with Sheldon over here, and we were kind of testing that to see if we liked front and rear. And I didn't like that, and I'll tell you exactly why. I'm used to these being tactile transducers, and I'm used to them activating every time there should be subwoofer action on the scene, like, you know,
Sure.
bass on the scene.
Right.
With the rear and the front subs, when there wasn't necessarily bass coming out of the rear, those weren't even active. So I lost a lot of my tactile feel from the rear subs when they were designated as rear subwoofers.
Sure.
And it wasn't scenes I'm familiar with. It wasn't as good. You could tell it was somewhat directional bass, like it because they're right there, so you can tell when they're on or off. Of course, I could tell there's some directional bass, but overall, I didn't prefer it. Now I want to do it like they're suggesting and put it in 4 corners of the room and see what that makes up, but just haven't done it yet.
Right. Cool. Great question though, Jason. Appreciate it. Nedev, thanks so much for the $20 super chat. Have a lot of questions, but I prefer to learn the hard way by watching and reading a lot. That way, always get additional information. Great, man. Now just enjoy your live. 200K soon. We're heading that direction, man. Appreciate the support. So yeah, the great thing, man, there are so many resources out there, whether it's a YouTube video, whether it's the AVS forum. That's a huge resource. I know Jonathan spends a ton of time in the AVS forum. I used to be there when I was building out my theater room because I was the guy with all the questions. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And I'd post a photograph and I'd say, okay, what are the pros and cons of putting my speakers here? And I would get feedback from guys that have already been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. And so that was super valuable to me. But now with me making so much content, I definitely don't have the opportunity to spend in the AVS forum. But there's a wealth of knowledge over there. There's a ton of resources on just about every topic in home theater. So absolutely, man. Let me scroll back up here. Schmuck says, question, have any of you heard Karma speakers? If so, what did you think? I heard the Karma Exquisite MIDI. And they blew me away, blew my mind. Karma.
I've not.
Exquisite? Nope. Never heard of them. Wonder if they're overseas. Karma Exquisite. Karma International. Let me put these up here on the screen. These are pretty unique design here.
Whoa.
I have not seen those.
They remind me. Oh, I've seen the ones. Well, no.
I mean, look at these.
They remind me a lot of Sonus Faber.
Yeah, they look way above my budget. Man. I mean, seriously, like that's a gorgeous speaker. I mean, look at even the feet down here.
All right, I got to know how much these are. Give me, what's the name of them?
They're called Karma, K-H-A-R-M-A.
Got that.
Exquisite. You can't even read how it was. E-X-Q-U-I-S-I-T-E, MIDI, M-I-D-I, grand.
I got it.
All right, let's take a guess. I'm thinking 175 a pair. Jonathan, what do you think?
Man, I have no idea. You could just throw it a dartboard at that.
Yes, man, we're gonna have some fun.
If you're at 175, I'll go 250.
Okay, Ryan, how much are these?
The MIDI Grands.
Ryan's looking it up right now.
I'm not well. I can't find what are these even.
There's not a dealer in the
Exquisite MIDI. I've got that.
The Exquisite MIDI is the model. Exquisite MIDI Grand 3.0.
I don't see the Grand. I can see the MIDI 2.1.
Okay.
I don't know. It's $85,000 a speaker.
Okay.
Ooh.
So that was pretty close to what I said. MSRP.
I am going to go out on a limb and say there are much better speakers for the money. Nothing against Karma, but I think you can get a very good experience for far less. Is how I won't say better. I'll say very good experience is how we should say it.
Well, here's the whole price sheet here. So some of their speakers, the Exquisite Extreme Grand Limited Edition 25, go for $540 a pair.
Oh my gosh!
Here, I'll share this. Yeah, they're these are pretty. I say high end. They're quite expensive.
They're past high end. This is insane.
Oh dang it! I just shared the wrong thing.
What's after high end?
Well, and that's the thing. I don't want to say high end, because just because something's expensive doesn't necessarily mean that it's high end, and doesn't necessarily mean that it sounds wonderful. I've been to some high end trade shows and heard some really.
Oh, there's the MIDI Grand Signature right there. 200
right.
a pair.
Yeah, but I think they had
Maybe the ones I saw were on sale.
Okay. And who knows, this may be an older thing, but I mean, most of their speakers are pretty, I mean, even
so in your in-game speaker, guys, what would you get?
I think if I was going to spend that much money, I'd buy a Ferrari.
Answer the dang question, Jonathan. I don't want to answer. I'm going to buy a car.
Get that, dude.
If I'm not saying you have to spend that amount of money, I'm saying
so if you
your
had
end-game speaker in general. Regardless of cost, I don't care if it's expensive or not. If you could buy it and be done, what would you buy?
I think mine would probably be some form of Sonus Faber. They're gorgeous looking speakers, handmade, handcrafted in Italy. Man, I can't even say
Italy.
Italy.
It's a new country.
They're beautiful, and even recently, I don't even remember the model, but dude, Will Klein was cranking those speakers. They sounded phenomenal, man. Really, really great speakers. But they're just gorgeous. They've got just cool design and style. And I saw Symphonics Audio. He mentioned Borenson. I don't know the models, but I've heard maybe one of their bookshelf speakers.
See if they have any B stock.
They're phenomenal, man. Borenson makes some legit speakers. So the Ieta 2s or those Stradivari. Honestly, I saw the Stradivari's. I didn't like the styling of that. They look kind of funky to me. But a lot of their speakers, man, I love and adore. Kellen says Magicos would be better yet if they made an active speaker. They may, I'm not sure. But yeah, let us know in the chat. What would yours be?
So Michael's is Focal, or not Focal. It's Sonus Faber.
I think Sonus Faber, man, they're just so beautiful. Just a cool speaker.
Jonathan?
So if we're going for style,
no, we're not going to style. I'm saying that's just the direction Michael went.
If you just had a ton of money, unlimited
not
money,
even a ton of money, what would your end game speaker be that you'd be done with? Like you'd say, this is it. Granted, that never happens, but I'm
a very practical guy. You guys, I don't think I'd ever go to those type of ranks.
I'm not saying you have to.
If I had unlimited money, I would have multiple systems. that wouldn't be my theater more than likely. You know what I'm saying? I'm just thinking, like, if I just had 2 speakers, dude, right. I would totally do something like that in my living room.
I'm going to share one that I always thought was kind of cool looking that would be fun for like a stereo setup in a nice room, and if you had unlimited money. Present.
Right. Let's see.
Share screen.
Some of these are saying Perlisten, JTRs.
Okay, these Avantrod. You like these things? Have you seen those in person?
Yeah.
I made them pink one day for somebody. I think it was you, Jonathan.
There they are.
Somebody said something about pink, so I did some Photoshop and made them pink.
They sound nice. They got a nice big horn on them. They're interesting looking. I could probably go for those if I had.
That would not be my choice. Money. Yeah.
You didn't like them, Michael?
I mean, I haven't heard them. Just looking at them, I wouldn't want them.
Oh,
but that's just my preference.
Sure. Everybody's a little different.
So mine would be here, Sonus Faber. Let me go to their website. I'll show you. Collections. But yeah, there's some beautiful speakers out there, man. Yeah, see the Stradivari's, that doesn't do it for me. I don't know why. Find Ryan, what would you pick?
Ascendo Black Swans.
Ascendo Black Swans.
I knew that. I suspected.
I'll be honest, they're phenomenal. 100%.
After hearing you rave about them recently.
That's it. That was the end. Once I heard them, I knew that's it.
But to me, I mean, these Ietas are so gorgeous, man.
Like those speakers captivated me so much that I'm seriously debating putting them in my theater and putting them in a 2-channel setup.
Yeah.
Having two separate setups for them. I mean, they were that good for me.
Yeah. I mean, look at these, dude. Just
those are pretty speakers. There's actually one of the locations, Michael, that we were talking about doing M-Wave at in 2022 had those, and they were going to let us use them.
Man, those are just drop dead gorgeous. Like
They
like I
are.
said,
They
that
are.
wouldn't be my theater room. I mean, that literally would just be like a 2-channel setup, but I would totally get down with that. So,
Yep.
but it's gonna be a while. 125,000 subscribers is not gonna.
Man, I went the cheap route with my black swans.
You did.
How much do those cost? What do black swans cost?
It ain't that cost.
What are they?
Yeah,
It's not that. I can
very
tell you here in just a second. They make a few different versions of them. Let's see.
Let's see. The MSRP on those are 120 grand. So actually,
Not on the black swans, on the ones you were looking at.
Yeah.
So the black swans.
And they even say they're better than sex, apparently, according to this magazine.
They need a new partner.
That's what I'm thinking. I ain't trading for 120.
The black swan active berylliums are 28 a speaker.
28,000. So okay, so 40. 60,000 almost. Nice.
But I'm in bargain territory in comparison to you two.
Yeah. True. That's true.
I didn't even know what those. I didn't even know how to say the name. I just saw them at a couple shows and thought they were pretty cool.
Oh, those
sounded great. Is that how you say it? Am I saying it right? Avant-garde.
I've heard of the name. I don't know how to pronounce it. Avant-garde. Not sure. Some people are saying Wilson Audio XLF.
I have no idea how much they cost.
Crazy
Where I was
looking.
going with that.
There's some cool stuff out there, man. Definitely. Oh, he says, look at the Lilium. Sonus Faber Lilium. Let's see what those look like.
Ivan says the Wilsons because they're crazy.
Yes.
The Wilsons look like a transformer that's about ready to attack me.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
what I always think about when I see the Wilsons.
Yeah. These Liliums are pretty too, man. Heck yeah. Like I said, man, I just love what Sonus Faber stands for, man. So it's just good stuff. I had a chance to review one pair. It was the Olympica Nova 3s, about 12,000 a pair. And I'm like,
yeah, Michael's coming up with quotes like, I just want them in my house to look at them. Not that I would actually want them or use them. I just want to look at them.
Just looking. Oh, funny. I'd be listening to them. Cool. I just got another super chat here. One Big Chief, appreciate the $10 super chat. Are there any DIY speaker and subwoofer kits such as the Maddie sound, or Parts Express that are worth the saving to get a higher quality at a more budget price due to assembling everything yourself?
Yeah, certainly.
So have you heard of Maddie
Sound Group? Is a good one to check out. Let me get the link for the people in the chat.
Yeah, DIY Sound Group. I did a home theater tour on one of those, and it's phenomenal. They can sound really, really great.
Here, I got a link for you to put in the chat, in our private chat.
Brian says he's got a couple for sale. He's a mess. All right, private chat, DIY Sound Group, copy link. I'll drop it in the chat. Yeah, DIY Sound Group, they're legit, man.
Yeah, and they're vetted. The guys that run that are very knowledgeable in their community efforts, and they they're, if you go on ABS Forum, you can talk to designers and so forth. It's a cool setup.
Yeah,
the guys are building those things they're selling them for almost nothing. I mean, this is not like a money making proposition for them. It's for love of the hobby type thing.
Yeah. If you're also really looking at them and you have a little bit of time to wait, go to Expona because they're usually at Expona. And you can go talk to them, and they've got a room set up. Parts Express is usually there. DIY Sound Group is usually there, and you can go pick their brains. And they just love the space. They're not in it to become rich. They're just in it to share the wealth, get everybody excited, and allow more people into the space itself in a good way.
Have you heard this one? CSS Audio?
No, me either.
Doesn't mean it's bad. Just never heard of it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. Creative Sound Solutions, high-end speaker kits. Okay. So you can actually build your own. Yeah. So that might be another option for you too. Take a look at those. Cool, man. See, I love the community, dude. You guys hook us up with all kinds of good stuff. It says DIY Sound Group seems to be forever out of stock. That's with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Everybody's still trying to recover, man. Still
A
having
lot of people are buying their stuff though. I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. Nope. Got that one. Let me uncheck that. Pete says, what screen should someone get who watches streaming shows and some movies? Okay, looking at either a scope screen to fit a 16:9 image or 16:9 screen to mask for scope content. The age-old question. 16:9. Oh, and one of my subscribers had him over at the house, and this is going to tie in with your question, by the way. I'm not just rabbit trailing. He was over at my house, and he said, Michael, he said, for the past 5 years, I've watched your channel, and every time you say something, I just kind of cringe because I came up in, like, he was involved in film, like straight up in the movies and stuff. I always called it Cinescope.
Instead of CinemaScope?
Cinemascope. So I will never say Cinescope. Hopefully.
You just got to keep doing it now.
I've never
you're so far in.
I noticed you
I
said
don't know
that.
why. I always said like Cinescope, and he's like, "No, Michael, it's a Cinemascope." I went, "Oh, my bad."
It's fine.
So I learn something new every day. So,
it's fine.
age-old question: scope 16:9. There's definitely pros and cons of both. I rock a Cinemascope screen. Jonathan has a Cinemascope screen. Ryan has a 16:9 screen.
Going
Of
2-1.
Of course, the two guys are, majority, and so Ryan is not doing it.
Obviously, I'm wrong, so don't worry.
Yeah. So you.
But
really
if he's watching primarily streaming shows,
that's going to be.
I'm almost tempted to say 2-1.
Think so?
It's going that direction.
That's the direction it's going. I mean, that is the Netflix aspect ratio. So I'm almost tempted to say that, but
if you like black bars on everything, go 2-1.
If they don't bother you, I mean,
they bother.
I'm trying to go with what he said in the comment. Okay,
But he didn't ask about that. He asked about.
He said who watches streaming shows and some movies.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe he didn't know that 2-1 was possible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get somebody else on the 2-1 bandwagon. You're just shooting it all down.
2-0 used to be the one that everyone was talking about on the forums. Is that now deflated in favor of 2-1?
I don't know.
I don't really. Let me look it up real quick. What is Netflix standard 2-1 or 2-0?
Don't know.
Googling it.
Oh man, come on, Grave Danger. Cinemascope. You're gonna get in trouble too.
And I'm failing.
Just go to 2-1 and Ryan will say you mad VR.
2.1 is the aspect ratio that is Netflix choice. So there you go, Ryan.
I'm not. So here's my. Well, I guess you're different, maybe, Pete.
Isn't 2-0 the same as 2-1? I think it's the same thing. It's just worded in a different way.
So 2.0 colon 1 is a pretty common aspect ratio. Is that the same as what you're talking about? 2-1?
I think you're right there too. I think it's probably 2.0 to 1 or 2-1.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably the same.
Is that right?
Who am I doing this show with?
What, dude? Mine is a 2.35 colon 1. So for every one high, it's 2.35 units wide.
It is. But you guys said 2.0 and 2.1, and they're the same thing.
That's what we're
2.0 to 1.
I want to make sure, yeah.
Yeah, they are. They're the same thing.
So 2.0 is the same thing as 2 and colon 1.
Yes.
But when you say 2-1, so I don't know.
It sounds different. Yeah, it registered different in my brain.
It sounds different, but they're the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of times when I've said, like when I say I'm going 2.0 at a trade show, everybody looks at me like, the hell's that?
Well, when you say it, my brain thinks almost a square for some reason. And that's
that'd be more like 4.3.
It is high. So a 2-1 aspect ratio, you're twice as wide as you are tall.
2.0 would be invisible.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. So yeah, so it really is gonna, I mean, that's a really important decision that you've got to make if you're building out a theater room, whether it's in a living room, in a dedicated space, is what aspect ratio you're going to go to. If you go with a Cinemascope screen and you're watching 16:9 content, you're gonna have gray bars on the left and right. You can add masking up there, manual masking.
No, Brian, it's cinescope.
Y'all gonna get me in trouble, man. Yeah. Yeah, I would. And so here's the weird thing too, Brian. And I even had somebody correct me a long time ago when I first started my channel. They're like, Michael, you keep saying CinemaScope, but it really isn't. Your 2.35 really isn't CinemaScope. CinemaScope is actually blah, blah, blah. I don't know, man. I just call all of those wide formats, something beyond 16:9, CinemaScope, you know. So see, I'm going to say it enough times. I'm basically going to correct the amount of times that I've always said CinemaScope. So in this show. So.
I think that answer is yes there. They're so close, 235 to 2.4. It's like
we're talking like quarter of an inch, half inch. I mean, it's not a lot.
They say if you're making a new screen, a 2.37 is a good compromise because it sort of makes it immaterial either way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a small amount anyway. It just over zooms onto your Velvet. You probably won't even notice it. I don't have two different settings. Do you guys have two different settings? Or do you, Michael? Do you have a 235 and a 2.4?
I like how he just went to you guys and then he goes, forget
Brian.
you
get 16:9. You don't count.
Well, now I have the Mad VR, so that's kind of.
Oh, you do it with Mad VR?
It fills my screen no matter what. But
you're right.
To that, I only had two. I had a 2.35 to 1, and then I had a 16:9.
And a 2.0 to 1 as well for the Netflix stuff I had.
What people need to realize is that even if you have to change a lens memory to be able to go from 235 to 240 to get rid of those small black bars, you will not notice the content loss.
No,
we'll notice. So don't fret over that. Just pick one. Pick what fits on the wall better, and then go with it.
Yeah, I have a 2.351. Yeah, sure. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's jam through some of these questions here, man. You guys got some good ones coming in. So Vincent, what is that? I was trying to combine the first and the last name. Vincent. I'm sorry, brother. Looking at getting into building a subwoofer or two, ported box and crown 2502. What do you think? 2 UM18s or 1 21-inch Kraken in one box?
Kraken.
What's wrong with Kraken?
Kraken. Cinescope. Kraken.
Release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken into the cinescope of doom.
All right, I've got to cut that up into a short. Oh my gosh, I'm crying.
That's funny.
The Kraken.
This is exactly why we talked about you having those new microphones is good, because that would have been bad on being able to level match everything and everything being peaked.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would do 2 UM18s.
Yes. And the reason we're saying that is it would be pretty similar output in all likelihood, but you get a better uniform response to every seat with 2 versus 1 sub. So unless you're talking about down the line adding a second 21-inch, you're probably better off with dual subs in almost any scenario.
Do you think he would maybe even get more output with the UM18s?
Well, it would depend on if he can do 2 and make the box bigger, because ported, you really need a big box. So if he can space them out through 2 subs, potentially he could get more output and a better output using 2 UM18s than 121, because most people are going to make the box too small.
I haven't said this show is going off the rails.
I'm in rare form tonight.
Dude, we're having fun. Here we go. All right. Martin says, when physically installing Krosken, so I think you mean Krosken actuators on Valencia seating, there's 8 feet on the chair. Okay, so he's talking about the bottom feet. Only got 2 actuators and 2 isolators. Do I need to get more feet or isolators for the middle 4 feet? So he's only got enough to fit so many of those. So should he get more of those so that he gets more tactile response? I know Krosken does a couple of different packages. Some of them have like 2 feet. Some of them I think have 4 feet.
I think he's going to want 2 more actuators. Maybe that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when they have 8 feet.
You can tell by my expression, I don't know.
Yeah. Usually when a couch has 8 feet, it means it's in 2 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So if that would just be 1 per piece.
Oh,
ideally you'd want
right
all the way across the front, and then you put isolators on the back.
The actuators are the thing that bounce. The isolators are the rubber deals, right?
Correct. Yeah. Well, not bounce. The Crosons vibrate. They don't really bounce. I mean, I'm just imagining a flat piece going.
That's what they do. That just raises and lowers.
I mean, it feels like a vibration though. It doesn't. You know what I mean? Never mind.
It's not moving. Like
it is moving. It absolutely is.
Like,
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it literally raises and lowers. Bounce is probably the wrong word because it'd be a very precise electrical movement.
I
But
see one of
it goes up and down.
This bounce.
You probably need more isolators and not more actuators. One actuator is supposed to put it off pretty tremendous amount of weight, I think, right?
It is, but my problem is he's going to be able to localize it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just coming from one corner, for the people that are sitting over there, you'll be able to know exactly where that's coming from, unless you spread it out.
I don't know.
In my opinion.
Have you felt Krausen? Where'd you feel Krausen? Because I don't know if I can.
I had them.
Tony's got them.
You have them?
I had them.
Oh.
Tony's got them in his setup.
Tony has them.
Mark
At
a few people's house. I didn't really localize it.
Tony, if I remember correctly, I think he's got 3.
Yeah, but did you not localize it because they were all across the front?
No, Sheldon just has like 1 per chair on his front 3 chairs or something, and I couldn't localize it. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of experience with Krausen. They're too expensive.
Obviously, your butt has no feeling, so I don't. Really
$500 a piece is kind of pricey.
Yeah, Martin, my honest advice, I would reach out to Crowson and just ask, say, hey, here's my seating. Here's how many feet it has. It's, it's a 3-seater, 2-seater, whatever that combination is, and just get their honest opinion.
Or post in the tactile thread on AVS.
How much do they charge for their isolators there? Because I might have a suggestion to save you some money there.
I like the ones that you and I use.
Yep.
They work well.
The Hudson Hi-Fi.
Yep.
Let me go grab one.
Okay. So you might say,
I like how Jonathan just has like a stockpile of stuff
in
the back room.
Like, let me go
get one.
Just happen to have a few.
I bought this in 1974.
So Frank says, Martin, you need 2 actuators per seat for the best results.
See, that's what I think. Otherwise, you're going to be
only got 2 actuators on the whole couch or whole seating.
It would be different if it was like a couch that had just 4 contact points to the ground, but it doesn't.
Yeah, because your couch is going to kind of be doing this. This one's going to be doing this one, and this one's going to be doing this.
It's not that bad. But yeah.
Come on, man. Roll with me.
No.
I don't know where they are. I thought I knew where they were. I have a whole pile of them.
I stole them last time.
You need a better inventory system, Jonathan. So hope that helped, Martin. Derek says, best bang for the buck processor AVR supporting 9.x.6 Dolby Atmos. Bang for the buck.
That's an expensive commodity no matter where you buy it from.
Yeah, like a
Monoprice is the cheapest one for $4,000, I think, unless you go to like one of the Chinese ones.
Well, what about the 6700 from Denon? You'd need an extra amp.
9.x.6, I guess if you're doing 7 bass instead of no, you can't.
That's 15.
That's 15 speakers. So you would need a Monoprice, you would need a tone winner, or Emotiva has a Basics one or something at this point.
Couldn't the Denon A1H do that?
Oh yeah.
The Denon A1H could do it, or the 8500.
Yeah,
I actually have one. I need to sell one. So if you need one, reach out. I actually do. It needs to find a home. So you can get a really good deal on it because it's a demo. So hit me up.
Right there, man. Reach out. Hook you up.
And the A1H is a hoss. I mean, it weighs 85 pounds.
And it's just processor, correct? Or is that an AVR?
No, it's an AVR. Okay. You could run your whole theater off of it.
Nice. Yeah, see, I'm still not real familiar with the new lineup. I totally lost contact with Denon Marantz when they did the whole.
She's a hot, and she has sat in like a hallway in my living room for a couple months because I don't want to move.
So you're saying she's thick?
She's thick. She got a trunk. Yeah, she's big.
Nice.
Anyway,
Justin says Sony CS9 sub, 11 by 18 room. That's a decent size room.
A what sub?
A Sony.
I love Sony, but when you start talking Sony and subs,
let's finish. So, yeah,
hold on. Let's. No, I've looked it up. I want to have you guys guess its specs. Hold on. Let me
All right,
pull it
you
up.
look it up. All right, so
I
anyway,
got
he's
it.
got a sub. He's got to crank the base to +4 and the channel ebb to +12.
All right, what do you think the
good.
advertised frequency response is on this sub?
I'm thinking it goes down to 32.
Well, I guess I should say, what do you guys think the driver size is on this sub?
That is going to be an 8-inch driver.
It better be a 9 or the naming scheme is cockeyed.
Okay, it's
it's
9.84.
Wow.
What do you think the advertised frequency response is? And this isn't me digging on Sony. Everybody does this.
14 hertz in room.
No, 32 hertz. He's dying. 32 hertz.
28.
Yeah. So Justin, the truth is on the Sony subs is
it weighs 25 pounds.
Yeah. The reason why you're having to drive that thing so hard is it's just not a super capable subwoofer. Am I damaging my AVR? Probably not your AVR, because the Sony should, well, I don't know that particular model, but most subwoofers have a built-in amplifier. And if it does, it's going to, you're either going to drive that amplifier to its limits or not. But your amplifier, your AVR is just sending a signal. It's like an unpowered signal for the most part.
Well, it's sending a voltage to the amp that the amp then converts.
Yeah, but it's not like power. You're not going to damage that.
No.
Change the sub level and limit changes.
You may bottom out and blow out your sub, but man, push that Sony. Let it go out in spectacular fashion. It wants to live life. It is a little guy. Let it feel big and go out in a blaze of fury. Okay.
Go watch Tron Legacy and you won't have that sub anymore. I'm not kidding.
Or what is it?
Edge of Tomorrow or something.
Edge of Tomorrow. Just go watch the beginning. Be like, I'm ready for a good movie, and then your sub will stop working.
No, Justin, don't listen to these guys. My encouragement, if the budget is really small, look at the used market. I'm serious. So look at the used market. There's some great subwoofers out there. Sony's they've never been in the subwoofer game, if that makes sense.
They may have used to be.
They never have.
Long time. I feel like they actually made good speakers.
They
make good headphones. Maybe not sub. Yeah, they did. They had some good speakers.
They did not. I'll disagree with that one. Yeah.
Maybe going down the list, they make this good. No.
They make great TVs.
All right, Mr. Cinescope.
CinemaScope.
Kraken.
So, yeah. But that would be in the Kraken. Oh man. Billy, what's up, buddy? He says, in a setup where there are no surround back speakers, they say that side surround speakers should go slightly behind, but how far? Great question, sir. So
Dolby spec. Where's that sheet? Where's that? Who can get there first?
It's 90 to 110, if I remember right.
we're talking probably a 5.1, I would imagine.
Where's the 5.1? I already got it.
All right, you hit it. You probably don't have it.
I do.
All right. There we go. I got it too.
Well, then you present.
Then you don't have it.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't. You've been lying. So right here. So you'll see. Let me scroll in a little bit. So you basically want those anywhere between. So 90 degrees would be directly. I don't think you guys can see my cursor, can you?
Yes.
Yep, we can.
Okay. So 90 degrees would be straight to the right and to the left of your seating position. So you're going to want to be about 110 to 120 degrees. Everything's about angles with Dolby Atmos. And so you want to try to get in that position there. If you're running a 5.1 system, because you said you don't have surround back, so that would like typically be a 7.1. So Justin, I love you, man. You're awesome. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Billy. If it doesn't, just let us know. All right, let me go to this super chat. This is hilarious. Justin says, you guys are hilarious. I can't wait to blow up the Sony. I hope you don't, man. You don't have to crank it that loud. But yeah, it'll smoke. If you put on Edge of Tomorrow on that Joker, I don't think
plus 12.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be able to handle it.
It's going to die. It's going to be spectacular.
At least record it and put it on.
And by spectacular, I mean bottoming out once and then being very, very quiet.
or do this, record it, send it to me since my channel's monetized. We'll upload it as a short. If I make like $750, I'll just send you that money and you can buy you a new subwoofer with it. It makes some cool content.
Sony sub blows up. It gets like 6 views and he gets 50 cents.
Probably not even 50 cents. He might get like half a cent.
Oh
goodness. Never know, man. That's weird. Shorts are interesting. Jed says, what are your thoughts on the RP22 standards? So those are some new standards that just came out.
Yep.
They were announced at CEDIA.
Yep.
Maybe even a little bit before CEDIA, but
they were announced before, but they came out at CEDIA.
Yeah. Had a gentleman come by and he showed me the book and gave me a link to the PDF. I just haven't had time to look at it. But so in a nutshell, what is the RP22? So these are
there's a lot. But
I mean, like, not as far as what it says in there, but what is it? These are standards for building out theater rooms.
They're standards for building out home theaters to more of a specific spec, right? So a lot of that hasn't existed, and there's different levels that you can obtain or that a theater can qualify for. So it just gives people more guidelines on what they should be doing in a theater for seating distances and all kinds of stuff. Because there really wasn't a agreed upon spec for any of this before. People had their own, and different companies had their own, I don't know, hearsay on how it should be done. But this kind of defines
like a collective
more of a collaboration of how this should be.
A group of people they're trying to set some regulations. Something I wish they would do with HDMI. And but yeah, there's different rankings too. I think like a 1, 2, 3, 4. And so again, I have to do more research into it. I think anytime that you have some standards, that's a good thing.
Oh, I think it's great.
You know, so I definitely need to learn more about it. And SRW 1000 says you can download the standards for free. You just need to provide CEDIA with your email address.
I think it is great.
Addis says, is Rel Predator 15 or the Stark 15 sub any good for near field base?
When you said Ariel, I pictured Ariel from Little Mermaid, and I'm just imagined a Rel Predator swimming around underneath the ocean.
Dude, I'm mispronouncing everything tonight. This is gonna be the classic one. You need to like star this this podcast.
My question, Otis, is do you already have those subs? Price category, I think the Stark's going to be a better price for performance than the REL. Rel. You guys have any thoughts?
Are these both sealed?
Yeah,
I don't think the Stark one is necessarily
I think it's
sealed. They come in both ways, don't they? And the Rel one,
I thought they were. The Predators are sealed for sure.
I think the hardest part with a 15 is, I mean, you got to get that really close to your seating position. So if you have to recline your seat, it may put you out of that sweet spot.
Yeah,
I think they're both sealed. It looks like.
I think if you're going to do it and you have any bit of skill, if you're on a budget, build some UM18 sealed enclosures.
Save you some money probably too.
Man, that Stark sound really isn't that expensive. It's $700.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying because it's a 15-inch, you may be limiting the near field effect depending on his seating environment. Is all I'm saying.
He could probably get a UM18 cheaper than that, or pretty close to that, right?
Yeah, if you can build a box, but then you got to buy an amp, and then there's no real cheap path to put it together. You can't put it together for less than $700.
I agree. I'm simply saying that an 18 is probably going to give you a better experience than a 15.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think the Stark is the easiest solution.
Small for near field, though. There's a lot of people that have 15s for near field.
No, absolutely not.
You just have to have it close, and Michael put that caveat in there already.
So as long as you can get it close, you'll be all right.
What's the Rel cost compared to that Stark?
Over $1,000, probably $1,500.
Rel Predator 15.
All I see is the 1510, and that looks like it's $2,000.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the only thing. $2,000 for the 1510.
Get the Starks.
I'm telling you, man, that rail, look at the cone on that thing. That looks like a UM18 or UM1522.
That's probably what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that driver's $250, so you kind of know what you're getting into. Even if it's customized, it's not going to be that much different from what you're...
Guys, it was shocking going to Expona and walking around and seeing all of the Parts Express part numbers on really expensive speakers.
Yeah.
So don't think that other manufacturers aren't necessarily doing that. I'm not saying that that's what that is, but could be.
Yeah, he said Mia says the HT 1508 was the previous model. HT 1510 is the new one. Okay. Caesar says, hey guys, what happened to DTSX on Disney Plus? Almost late September and no DTSX on Disney yet.
Were they supposed to do that?
I kind of heard they're going to IMAX Enhanced on Disney Plus is the last word I'd heard.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you web search IMAX Enhanced plus Disney Plus, it's all over the place. I think that's the direction I'd heard about. Let me look up the same thing for Disney Plus plus DTSX.
Yeah, Jason said IMAX Enhanced already happened. And then Joe says IMAX Enhanced equals DTSX.
No,
that's two different platforms.
They may share, but they're not the same. IMAX Enhanced changes your crossovers all to uniform 70 hertz and has a center height, and DTSX is not. They're not the exact same.
A little bit different. Yeah, it says they only have IMAX Enhanced aspect ratio, not the audio.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tar Hoya. I'm just reading the comments. All right, I'm going to run to the next one. So Rich says, I have an open closet space on the right wall of my theater space that I'm using to my house. One of my subwoofers and AV rack. Could this space have adverse effects on my room's acoustics?
Not for your speakers so much. Maybe for your bass. It can change your frequency response for your bass. It may be better, it may be worse. That all depends on your boundaries and position of your seat and position of subwoofer and all that. You'll have to just get some calibrated mic and measure it.
I mean, it could affect the lower frequencies of the speakers, potentially. Probably not a lot.
If you have a direct line of sight from your speakers, it's probably not going to make that much difference.
Subs, yes. But I think you'll be okay. You can probably calibrate your way out of that with the subs to not necessarily notice, but it'll affect your frequency response, I would imagine.
Okay. Jason says, question about Atmos. I have vaulted ceiling from front to the back. Would 4 Atmos speakers be really worth it? Or just fine with 2 fairly small room with a 5.1? The difficulty with a vaulted ceiling is you're going to need to be able to angle those speakers directly at your position. So if you're doing, let's say, in ceiling speakers, that might be a little bit difficult because your vaulted ceiling may be angled different. Does that make sense?
Well, if he can put them in straight like they do with can lights, he could potentially do it. But you're just opening up a bunch of different variables that could potentially lead to a not great experience.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to realize that anything after a 5.1 is diminishing returns. So you can still get a great experience after 5.1. And if you don't have an ideal situation, I think it's better to stick with what is ideal than trying to make something work that doesn't necessarily fit into that space.
Look at this. I don't agree with that. What do you guys think?
Never 4? No. Yeah,
no, 4 is ideal.
I would go 4 before I would do 2 or 6.
6 does some. I can do everything in my room with what I've got on the ceiling, and I'll just say
26 on the ceiling.
I got more on my ceiling than I do in the base layer. 6 can actually be detrimental, especially with Sony mixes, and it can get really weird with how the processor does routing. 4, I've never had a problem with. I leave it at 6 because I don't really notice, but when you're actually paying attention and listening to where objects go, and you're turning off like your base layer, I think 4 is the best way, because if you do 6, it gets really confused with like heights and tops, and it does some really wonky stuff. Sometimes.
Ryan, you have more speakers than we have a platform that can handle it.
Look at his face.
He had to think about that. I was like, really?
Maybe
I do.
Maybe.
That's funny.
Storm can't even take advantage of all your speakers.
I got like 1 channel left.
That's awesome. All right, we're gonna try to blow through. Oh goodness, what just happened? There we go. I'm gonna try to blow through quite a bit of these. Rocksteady, hi. What are your thoughts on the XGME Horizon Ultra, the first Dolby Vision projector? I think I've seen a few Dolby Vision projectors, and we've talked about this in previous. I'm not so sure that Dolby Vision is like necessarily needed.
Do you think it's actually Dolby Vision?
I don't know. I mean, some of them claim they are. So here's my challenge on that. How can an XGME, which is, I don't know what the price is on that one. Maybe Jonathan's looking it up, but let's just say it's $1,500.
$1,700.
All right, man, I was close.
Real close.
How does a $1,700? I mean, it's not like a major brand. I would say maybe it's kind of like an off-brand in a way. How is that able to accomplish something that a Sony, a JVC, even a Christie projector can't? You know what I mean? So I kind of wonder about the validity of that.
Why does their marketing look better? Like, here's our product, here's not our product, and the not their product looks better in their marketing.
Post it.
Yeah, let's see.
All right, let me share my screen.
Oh, mercy.
Share screen.
So their competitor that they're showing looks better?
Oh, it's just odd. So can you see this? Is it popping up?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me which side looks better. They're advertising Dolby Vision over here and SDR.
I like the right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This
left looks blown out.
Yikes. Okay. Can you click and drag that too? Sometimes they have like a little. No.
That's bad.
That's funny. Yeah.
That just looks like somebody raised the brightness slider.
Yeah, and this other one, actually, this thing was scrolling a minute ago. Let's see if I can find how to get back to because I had this picture up there a moment ago with dual light, and that looked worse on their advertising thing too. I'm thinking, what are you guys doing with your advertising? Here it is. Look at this. Whatever this is, the bottom looks the best. I don't even know what they're advertising here, but
what?
This looks blown out pink, and this one looks.
I don't know what you're looking at.
I'm not sure what you're pointing at.
Oh, it's not. Is it not showing anymore?
Did you click on another tab, or did it open?
Yes, I can't do
it. Opened in another tab. So we're still looking at your other one.
Oh, all right. Well, if you just go look at their website, their marketing needs a little bit of help. Stop screen.
Yeah. So Grave Danger says, I'd like to see an XGME Horizon Ultra and a Hisense C1 at M-Wave compared.
I'd like to do ultra short throws next year.
It'd be fun.
The guy that we were going to do got really sick before M-Wave, so it didn't end up happening. But I'd like to do it.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
That's on my to-do list.
They're definitely, I mean, there's a market for them for sure. It'd be nice to be able to see some of those side by side.
Now,
it's tricky in the sense that you have to have their custom screen to really put them at their finest, right? You couldn't.
They would probably send it. Yeah. But then I guess in a way now you're not comparing apples to apples because.
Well, I don't know. It's a complete product. That's how you'd order it. So.
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, I guess so.
Because not sure why companies think people are that stupid. Most people don't know any better.
Yeah.
It's not that they're dumb. It's that they're ignorant. They're ignorant to the space, and that's not their fault. It's a lot of information.
I think he's saying those aren't short throws, Ryan.
Well, you're not a short throw.
It's like a table throw. That's Jimmy.
Like a coffee table. It sits on it wasn't an ultra short throw. So two different conversations, I guess.
I'm not highlighting any more questions because we got to get through 29 or whatever we got up there.
Let's crank it. All right. I'm just going to say photo video so I don't butcher your name. Hey guys, projector question. Would that be an upgrade from an XGME Horizon Pro DLP to Epson TW7300? Or should I say for the 9400? I believe it is 6050 in the US.
I'm going to say...
What's the TW7300? These are all numbers I'm not familiar
I don't
with.
know.
So
I know the 6050. That's the only one.
Could be European.
Could be a 5040.
Sometimes they'll have European models that they don't sell in the US.
Well, none of us have seen the Genie, so how we can't answer this really reliably.
You just have to be looking at specs.
The 6050, if that's the TW9400, that's a pretty picture. We'll all three agree on that. So I just don't know what your Genie experience is like or your TW7300 is like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to compare those. I've only reviewed an XGME Ultra short throw, and it was okay. It definitely wasn't my favorite for sure. So my vote, just based on having an Epson, I had the 5040 UB, and it was a great projector, and we recommend that a lot here on the channel, on the podcast. Rich says, when can we expect to see the video of Newbie's Place? That's a good question,
Well,
man.
Newbie's Place is now in shambles after what the home theater did with his 7 Captivators, so it doesn't exist anymore.
It blew up. Good question, Rich. I literally have to sit down, probably even tonight after the podcast, to kind of write down everything that I have, because I have a ton of stuff. I still have content from Cedia. I still have Scott Newbies to do. I still have a home theater tour of Matthew Poe's, plus all of my review units. And there's quite a few of those, probably 15 review products that I've got in-house. So it's coming, but I can't guarantee exactly when. Leadership push. Jonathan, how many speakers and subs do you have in your setup? And I'm going to let y'all talk. I'll be right back.
Man, we did the math. There's 16 tweeters per CBT. There's 15 CBTs, 4 woofers. That's a lot. It's hundreds. If you just want the short number, there's 15 CBTs. So each one of these things, there's 15 of those in a 9.8 8 subs .6 configuration. So 6 ceiling speakers, 8 subs, 9 bed channels.
To confuse everybody, he did that backwards.
No, 9.8.6. That's
I
right.
know, but then you did 6.8.9.
Yeah, I'd keep it interesting.
Yeah. Why, I don't know. All right, next question. Dustin says that the 6500 contrast in black level is much nicer than the XGME. I've never seen the XGME, but I'm going to guess that that's the case. Let's get rid of that. So if you had to choose, Marvin Abugov, if you had to choose an AT or ALR screen, which would you choose? Seymour Screen Excellence or Stewart, I think, as I remember seeing that. I would not do Screen Innovations personally. I've had too many problems with like my brain's not working. Like quality control. I've had too many issues with that with SI. So I would not do that. Seymour and Stewart's who I would go with. Stewart's going to have more options than Seymour, I think, for AT or ALR. Their Halar Plus is really good from Stewart. I really like that fabric. Or Halar Plus. They're a little bit different.
I haven't heard of them. Halar.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this on that comment, and I think I've heard other people echo this in the past, so I'm not original in this, but I've not been to someone's house and thought that screen looks really poor.
Yeah.
Projectors can look great on a wall. Projectors can look better on a screen. But when you're talking about the differences in between screens, it's going to be pretty hard to tell without them side by side. And even then, the differences will be pretty slight.
Depends on the screen.
You can go to the extremes and have bad experiences, yes. But like too much sparklies, too much too much reflection.
But if you put a white screen and an ALR screen in a bright room, the ALR screen is going to walk all over the white screen.
Oh, sure.
So I think if you're comparing ALR to ALR, yeah, there's going to be slight differences, but I would just read reviews. Stuart, in my opinion, is kind of, and Seymour, but I mean, Stuart to a lot of people is the de facto benchmark. But Seymour too.
I've never like walked away and went, man, that screen was beautiful. I'm thinking the projector, but I mean, I guess it can be a combination of both, but I've just never.
But how often are you going up and asking people what screen is it when you're looking at an image? You're
That's
typically asking what the projector is.
So yeah, and it kind of is along the lines of people say, you know, how did that Trinoff sound in that room? Like, how do I know it was the you know what I'm saying? Like, what part was Trinoff? What part was speakers? What part was acoustic treatment? You know, it's hard to say in an image, all right, what part of that is the projector and what part of that is the screen. But yeah.
So my recommendation in this is order screen samples from both companies and put them up and see which one you like better.
They're so small. It's like trying to compare.
So if you ask Stuart, if you send him an email, they will give you a bigger one. You just got to ask, right? They'll try and accommodate you.
Like sample. I get that because I want to make sure this thing's going to look good on my wall.
Yeah.
They will try to give you bigger ones.
Yeah.
For sure.
Cool.
I got the next
so
one.
David does say some screens are horrible for DLP. They make the laser speckle worse.
So speaking of that, Stuart will actually ask you what projector you have because they vary the formula and how they do the screen slightly differently for each type of projector.
So they'll custom mixture.
It's not a huge difference, but they will change some things in the screen for that particular projector.
Gotcha. All right, let's crank through some of these. Mike, appreciate the $5 super chat, and he had a question, and I'm not seeing it now. Hang on. Oh, it's right above it. Here we go. So, hey, Michael, with your extensive experience with clips, would you get the RC64 version 3 center channel or the 504C2 center channel mated with the, okay, so if you already have the RP800F version 2s, I've always been a fan of trying to match within the same series. So the the RC64 version 3 is actually mated with like the RF7 version 3. So that would be the next tier up. But with that said, I know people that have used the RC64 with even older reference speakers, or they've used them with the reference Premier speakers, and with I mean, when you're running calibration like audio or Odyssey or
audio.
What?
That's what you were gonna say.
I don't know what I was saying.
I don't know what you're gonna say either.
But a lot of times when you run that, it's going to EQ those pretty similarly. So it's probably not going to be a big difference. Is the 64.3 a better center channel? Yeah. It's got a bigger, I want to say it's a 1.25 compression horn. I don't remember what the 504C is. It's going to have some smaller drivers as well. So the 64.3 is going to be more capable. It's just a beefier center channel. Part of it's how big is your room. I mean, if you got a big room, yeah, it might be a great idea to go with that 64.3. And the other thing to think of too is, do you think that you'll always have the 800Fs? If you ever think about going to like the RF7 version 3 and upgrading your towers, then that just might be an upgrade path down the road. Yeah, so he said he's got a big room. So, you know, the 504C may struggle in a big room. So, but like I said, I personally haven't mix matched those. I've always had kind of a matching system, but I know guys in the Clips forum and the Clips community that said, yeah, man, I rock, you know, this model. And I know it doesn't go with that series, but it still sounds great to my ears after calibration. So he said he does want to step up, but I may want to get the Forte 4s. Again, Forte 4 is going to be a completely different sound signature. So having either one of those center channels with the Fortes is going to be odd. If you go with the Fortes, I would recommend either a third Forte or maybe like a Heresy if you need something a little bit smaller. So those are going to be a lot different in sound signature from the Heritage series to the Reference series and even the Reference Premier series. So hopefully that helps, man.
Mike, my recommendation is send Michael and I an email and we can chat further about that. There's a lot of variables and
a lot of pieces,
things that can go into that.
Marvin says, if you had a chance to choose.
We already did that one.
Okay. That was while I dipped out on you. MW, is this also how you dial in 25 hertz and below by feel?
This was the tactile transducer question. No, that should be time alignment. Unless he's talking SPL.
My experience with 25 hertz on those transducers is that it's pretty generous. You're not going to notice a whole lot of being off.
I took that as the subs 25
that's
hertz.
What I thought you meant. Do you do the subwoofers the same way by feel? Or I don't think you're looking at measurements.
Yeah, you'd want to be looking at a calibrated mic.
Yeah.
Okay. For that.
All right, Sebastian, which speaker is better for the price? Martin Logan XT100s or Arndal 1723 THX Music and Cinema? XT100s.
Those are going to sound different.
They're going to sound, Michael, they're going to sound virtually identical to your XT200s. They're just a little bit smaller. So they're the same size as the XT6, the 60 XTI.
Gotcha.
Personally, I'm going to say XT100 because of its air motion tweeter, planar magnetic all the way.
I haven't heard the 1723s yet. So
you heard of an M-Wave?
Well, not really.
Kind of.
I mean, I heard them like we're talking just real briefly. I was so busy chatting with everybody, you know, saying hi.
I would go XT100.
Jonathan, have you heard the Martin Logans?
I don't think I've heard those Martin Logans, but I have those Arundels in the house.
You heard the XT200s at M-Wave.
So what's the difference between the XT200 and the XT100?
The XT100 is just slightly smaller.
Yeah.
They'll sound virtually identical when integrated with a sub.
I thought those XT200s at the show sounded great. I didn't have a problem with them.
They're really good.
Speakers.
Sebastian, let's make it happen. Shoot me an email. They're great speakers. They're fantastic. I've got the XT200s or the F200s in my living room. They're awesome.
Yeah, I've got the 200s in my living room as well. I'll be doing some comparison videos.
They're great.
MW, for each of you, what do you expect? What do you expect to implement art or wave? Okay, basically, are we going to implement art or waveforming in our own theater rooms?
Well, I know Jonathan is
soon,
obviously, because he hates manual calibration.
Opposites day.
I don't think Jonathan and either of us are going to.
Yeah,
we may play with it, but him and I are both full manual.
So right now, waveforming is Trinov only. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's not out yet for the general public.
And then art would be
Dirac.
Okay, so I don't have either one of those, so I definitely won't be.
It's kind of similar.
Kind of what they're trying to achieve is similar.
Kind of, sort of. They're both using support to augment lower frequencies. They're just doing it in different ways.
Sure, different algorithms.
Well, yeah, it's different approaches.
Near field subs should have more or less delay than subs with mains at front wall.
Less.
Okay. Is that right? Wouldn't it be more? Wouldn't it be more delay?
More.
Because you want
more.
Want to delay its firing since it's closer.
Yes, more.
Ryan, get some sleep, man. Darth Gerald says, I'm about to upgrade to a 9-channel receiver at the beginning of the new year. Will be small 2-channel amp such as a Fosse. Basically, will a small 2-channel amp such as a Fosse be able to power Atmos speakers from a 5.1.4 configuration to a 7.1.4? So Fosse is pretty budget friendly.
I'm going to say yes.
So these are, I'm looking on Amazon. There's probably different models. These are 100 watt by 2. Probably
those are little T amps, right?
Yeah, they got like little, I'll show you.
Even if it puts out 50 watts a channel, it's going to be perfectly fine in most applications.
I run 100 watts per channel to all of my speakers, and they're big speakers.
Well, why doesn't he just use the AVR at that point? Why are we going to a
because he
Fosse
needs the extra
I don't
channels.
think he has the. I don't think he has the.
He's only got 9 channels, so that'll do 5.1.4. But if he wants to do 7.1.4, he needs an amp. That's why.
Because his AVR will process 11, but it only powers 9.
9.
And
I
he's
wouldn't
want-
do that. I'd go with a tried and true crown off eBay for $100. Go get look up.
Yeah,
crown.
but if he already has the Fosse, it's like, I think it'd be fine.
One of the only amps I've ever been able to tell a sound difference in any of my amp testing has been these little T amps. Seriously.
I know, but he could try it first.
Sure. But for the same price, he'd go on eBay and buy a Crown XLS 202, 402.
I'm trying to not have him spend any more money.
For the last 30 years and not
Yes.
blow its capacitors and start firing your house.
Well, that got grim.
Yeah,
And
so
everybody
Jason-
dies. I just wanted Atmos speakers and I killed my family. Yes.
Wow, where did that come from?
Well, that's
So Jason
that's
says
where
it
mine
depends on the
went.
impedance of the speakers. So I'm running 4-ohm speakers. Now again, I have a dedicated 11 channel amplifier, so it's powering 100 watts per channel on the surrounds and my sides, and then 200 watts to my front 3 speakers, my LCRs. So yeah, so that AVR, or I mean that little amplifier, it may struggle with lower impedance. I don't know what the specs are on that. It'll handle like a 4-ohm load.
I'm going to take this. So this, I think, was a comment based on the waveforming and art. It's not that it didn't do well. Waveforming and art both did very well. The difference, in my opinion, is a manual calibration and time alignment and SPL matching is virtually almost always going to be better than what your room EQ does. That's my opinion. I've done enough room EQs or calibrations against room EQ that I think it's superior as long as you have good speakers.
Look at that little Fosse amp on ASR. It's not doing bad.
Yeah.
Mister, I could tell the difference.
Well, so my first impression was those little Lepi T amps that I have that cost like $20. I was thinking this was a higher variant of that, but it's not from the review. This actually does pretty good. I stand corrected.
So would you use that? Would you recommend that?
So from what I'm seeing here, it's not the exact same model. It's just Fosse. They reviewed something Fosse.
Sure.
They're saying that this one's putting out 160 watts.
Dang.
Which, you know, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's more than his AVR is going to put out. So this is a Fosse Audio V3. It costs $110.
Okay.
So a little bit more expensive than when he's got it. I don't know. See if you can find reviews on it, man, because it wouldn't be outrageous for somebody to have a really good product and then kind of sell a bunch of stuff on its coattails and not be as good type thing. So
Michael says, hey guys, has everyone had a hearing test to see if they are deficient in any areas of frequencies? Wouldn't this affect your reviews of equipment? Great question. So I have
all 3 of us are tone deaf above 10,000 hertz. So no wonder we like Fosse. All of our families died in our previous homes too. It's over.
That's funny.
I had a hearing test like 3 years ago, and I had normal hearing for my age, which means that you're losing it all along the way.
Yeah.
I can hear up to about 15,000 hertz and no higher.
Right.
At this point in my life, at 44.
I'm sure I've lost some higher end because I'm 48. So
Ryan's like 27 or something, so he's probably got a lot of hearing.
27
he's
going on 50.
He's hearing 5 hertz to 40,000 hertz. Yeah.
Man, you guys think that I don't have experience with Trinov? You guys are something else. I helped run the Trinov room.
Woo!
So, yes, I'm working on getting a Trinov here to compare it against art, but I still think that manual is just going to be better when done correctly because you have more control. Like if I've done enough calibrations and going back and looking at the time alignments and stuff that it just does some wonky stuff. So I still think manual is the way to go. I just got back from a calibration this weekend and manual crushed it. And the homeowner said no comparison. So
yeah. Let's see. Ender Robinson, one side of my room sounds louder. Didn't we talk about this before? I remember Jonathan mentioning.
I mean, Jonathan did talk about this in a previous stream.
Yeah, I remember Jonathan mentioning. I think somebody else had mentioned this in a previous podcast. I remember Jonathan mentioning he had this problem, but he said that his louder side had the closer wall. Mine is the opposite. My open side is louder. Any suggestions?
Get an SPL meter because that doesn't sound right.
Just level match them.
It depends. Maybe his subs, it's an echo chamber in the open area, like what happens in the back of my room.
Certain frequencies are.
Yeah, it may just be reverberating and it just bounces around and turns into a magnification chamber. But SPL meter, absolutely.
Or Omni mic or a calibrated mic.
Evangeliste says, Jonathan, with the Denon 3800H, 4 independent subwoofers, do I still need a mini DSP? I think Gene audio. No, and you talked about this previously.
I agree with Gene. I think, and Ryan and I kind of went back and forth a little bit on this because we didn't necessarily see eye to eye, and that's fine. My experience with Odyssey, which is what you're going to be running the 3800, is that it calibrates the time delays acceptably. Okay, so I think it will be close enough to not need a mini DSP. I don't think you're going to be able to dial it in better by ear per se, unless they just you'll want to check it because they could get the crossover at the wrong place. You might be able to improve it by raising or lowering the crossover a little bit with a calibrated mic, but it's generally going to be okay. And you're not without a calibrated mic, you're not going to be able to increase it with mini DSP anyway. Like you're already it's going to do a better job than you can do by ear. Let's put it that way.
I think for subwoofers, the time and delay settings that the 3800 gives you is more than adequate.
Yep.
So as long as you can go back, I think as long as you can go back and check them, because I think Odyssey can get it wrong.
Crossover.
I think it's more than adequate to do that than mini DSP. So I'll go back on what I said last time. I'll agree with you.
Here's a great. Ivan says maybe he has a deficient hearing on the other side. I just thought that was fun.
Well, I'm deficient in all categories, and I'm just very good at lying. So I don't know why anybody listens to me.
I just thought that was a good one. I like that. We're just having fun though. Let's see. John says, have you talked to anyone that has gotten their hands on a YIO Remote 2? I have not. I've reached out to them numerous times. They know I'm interested in reviewing it because I really believe that that is the only remote right now on the market that I've seen that has the potential to replace the Harmony Elite. But there's definitely, go to their, I think it's called Unfolded Circle, their community. It's like a forum, and you can kind of see there are some people that have gotten their hands on it, and so they're posting some stuff there. So definitely check that out, John. Caesar says, have any of you had any experience with Axiom audio? I'm planning to upgrade my system, and I was able to listen to the M100, and it sounded great, but I'm still not sure about the 2-tweeter design. I haven't heard Axiom that I can recall. Maybe at a trade show, but
Axiom M100.
Axiom audio. So they have 2 tweeters, he's saying? Oh, wow. He's right. So
$4,000 a pair.
I'll pull up boom. Let's look at maybe this one because this has got 2 here. This has got 2 tweeters. Interesting design, that's for sure. Huh. 2 tweeters and 2 mid-range. Look at that. I wonder what the purpose.
SPL enforcement.
But I mean, wouldn't you get some? I mean, I guess there's.
You're not going to be able to hear the comb filtering, in my opinion.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. Okay. Well, I guess. Well, think about it. What's that company that does the ones in a circle? Help me out in the chat.
Tecton.
Yeah.
So I guess other.
Well, look at what Perlisten does with their array.
That's true. They do have a tweeter on top, tweeter on the bottom, and a mid-range. Okay. So I guess it can be done. I think my advice is kind of what we always go back to. If you heard them and you really enjoy them, don't worry about it. You know, if they sound great and that's the sound that your ears love, man, rock it out. Be my advice. Tiki time. Are JTR RS2s considered 1 or 2 subs in the in specs? I don't know what that is. Just curious how you explain them. So the RS2s is technically one subwoofer. I mean, it's a single cabinet. Yes, you've got two different drivers, two 18s. You got a single amplifier powering both of them. I consider that. So I have two of those in my setup. So I would classify that as like a 7.2.4 in my setup. Even though we know the 0.1 is really all that you have in a room, but so I wouldn't classify that as a 7.4.4. So I think that's what he's asking. Is that what y'all are reading that? Does that make sense?
I'm not really sure what he's asking.
I don't know what an NNN specs is. I'm assuming you mean like 5.1.2, 7.1.6. If that's the case, then it would still be, if you have two of those, you would have two. That wouldn't be considered a 0.4 because, yeah, to me, it's one speaker. I mean, you're buying one speaker, so it's considered one speaker. Be kind of the same thing. Those XY. What?
This
What,
question,
dude?
I don't understand the question.
All right, so I think what he's saying. So RS2s are dual 18s. They're stacked in one single cabinet. And I think his question is that considered one subwoofer or two subwoofers because it has two 18s in it?
Is he talking about for like, does it have any advantages besides more output? And
I think he's just asking, is it considered one or two subs?
Oh. Now I got it. NNN being the 7.2. All right. I got it. Yeah, I think you're right on that, Michael.
So it's just a single speaker, single driver, single cabinet, even though there's two woofers. Because, all right, so think of the logic there. So going back to those Axiom Audios, is that one speaker or is that 7 speakers? Because it had like 4 woofers, 2 mid-ranges, and 2 tweeters. Still one speaker. See what I did there?
I'm just taking a backseat to this question. Michael seems like he's got it.
I got it on lockdown, baby. All right, Eric says, I have an Onkyo 709, broke the Odyssey mic. Can I use a better one or do I need to order the stock one? And any suggestions on a different one? Thank you. Buy the original.
Stock.
They're calibrated for those particular units. You don't want to use, I mean, you can't even use like an Omni mic for the calibration mic, if that makes sense. You can use it to do like SPL matching, but you're not going to be able to use it for Onkyo's now doing, I don't know if that model is, but they're doing Dirac. So you're not going to be able to use it to calibrate Dirac. So
I take issue with one thing, or maybe a clarification that you said, Michael.
Okay.
There's not individual calibration files for the mics unless you pay for the $200 upgrade for it that gives you an individual calibration file. So when you said calibrated for each unit,
well, okay. So what I mean, all right. So we're talking about those little puck, those cheap plastic microphones,
the Eiffel Tower things. These guys.
Yeah, those. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, you wouldn't use that on a Pioneer.
No, you can't.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. That's what I mean by it's calibrated for that unit.
It's calibrated for Odyssey.
Yeah, it may not be the right term, but it's made to go with that unit. So you don't want to mix match that on a different brand. You know, especially
you could, but I wouldn't use it.
And even the same thing with model numbers. I know sometimes Odyssey has different model numbers of those towers, whatever you want to call that, the little hockey puck. Some of them are like really small and flat. So yeah, but definitely I would just look for, if it broke, there's probably a model number on the bottom of it or the side. Just make sure you get that same one. So
I just don't think that there's any calibration for like Marantz versus Denon versus X3800 versus X6700. It's all, these come off an assembly line and it's luck of the draw. That's what I understand. So yes, you can't use this with a Pioneer or you can't use this with a Yamaha, but you can use any of this same tower design with any receiver and get the plus or minus allowed 2.5 dB variance. So like I've measured a bunch of these in my room. I have probably 6 of them sitting here and I measured 3. There's no tell.
Are they different models?
You can use this with another system if you wanted to.
Like there's, I mean, these are from multiple, I have the whole pile of them here.
Sure, but are they different models? Because I know some of them use the same model number, and that's fine.
That might be your answer here, but there's ACM 1HB, ACM 1HB, ACM 1H. So the ACM 1H is from an Onkyo 5508, which is like a 10-year-old pre-pro.
Yeah, but you could just be different renditions of the same microphone, and they're
This
just
is from a Marantz AV10. This is from a Denon 4520. So certainly these two are the same model number, with the Denon 4520, which is a 6-year-old, 7-year-old pre-pro, versus the brand new flagship Marantz, the same model.
That could just be an increment model change, though. And there's no reason that you couldn't use this as a calibration mic in general. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like most of them, just looking online, most of them are the ACM1HB. So, and maybe they don't have different ones. I'm just one of
that
those
information
guys.
floating around online, but I think it's wrong in the context that it's specific to a unit, but it's right in the context it's specific to a manufacturer.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, okay. And I guess that's the key thing. I wouldn't try to put one with a different. Again, like if it had one model number, I would just search for that model number and get the same model number. That's just me. Whether I'm wrong, oh well. They have an individually calibrated Odyssey mic for $80.
Or if you buy that $200 package, you get one with a calibration file that's like legit.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. So aren't Pioneer, Onkyo, and Marantz, Denon all operated by the same company, parent company? Might be the same parent company, but that doesn't mean that each one are going to utilize the same.
Onkyo is owned by
Onkyo and Pioneer are not the same as Marantz and Denon.
No.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, even if they were, they can. I mean, a lot of times these companies are under an umbrella, but they still might have.
Well, and it doesn't matter if it's Denon or Marantz. I'm pretty sure that microphone has to do with Odyssey, not the individual company. Yeah. And you don't have to be part of Denon or Marantz to use Odyssey. I thought Odyssey was its own company. No, maybe.
Well, here's the thing: most people, I don't know anybody that's using Odyssey other than Denon and Marantz.
Onkyo used Odyssey for a while, but they've since moved on.
Okay. Yeah, because they got their own little thing. All right.
They're using Dirac now.
Anyway, my recommendation: get the same model number. Can't hurt.
MW, how much was my Earthworks mic? $700, I think, is what it was.
All right, let's hit these real quick. Fencer Tyler says, any info on the new Ava Cinema remote as a possible Harmony replacement? I talked to Ava a while back, and I think if I remember correctly, they're only through like dealers and integrators. So that wasn't a good fit for my channel and for my content, because I want something that I can program and teach you guys how to use and let you know. That would be something that maybe, Ryan as a custom integrator could set up for you. So if he was an Ava dealer. So as far as, is that a possible replacement? To me, no, just because I don't think you can program that on your own. And correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, because I'm not familiar with the brand. My understanding, they're sold through dealers. And typically with the dealer, you're going to have them actually program it.
Yep.
So, okay. So Joe says, I believe Ava is doing that soon. Okay. That'd be cool. Yeah. It's more like Savant, Control 4, Crestron. Yeah, I think so, Mike. Yep. Let's see. OSU Fanatic 1980 says, is it demand? What is that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm just going to read it like it says, have demand D17 left and right, currently with 2 JTR Captivator 4000, looked at doing another D17 or for C for the center channel, or getting 3 new left, center, right for behind the projection screen, looking at JTR 212s, or is there another speaker I should look at?
Definitive Technology is what it is when we Google it.
I was like, what is a demand?
I didn't know what it was about Googling it either.
To me, Definitive Technology and JTR are not in the same ballpark.
Right.
At all. So
they're not on the same planet, let alone the same ballpark.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, yeah, they're not on the same field. That's what I meant to say.
If you're considering JTR, the only other brand that I would consider is Ascendo. or JBL.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because you're probably trying to push for reference, and you need certain types of speakers to be able to do that. That doesn't mean there's no other good speakers. I'm just looking at it in this with this particular lens on. 212s are going to be great. Maybe like an Ascendo P12, which is a coaxial. I would move away from the DefTechs. You're going to get a much better experience. And I would not miss the DefTech with the JTRs.
Yeah.
I mean, mixing them with the JTR caps is fine, but you're going to get a much better experience with going to JTR Ascendo.
100%. So going back to one of the questions, they said that remote is DIY now. So
good.
That Rick mentioned that. I think somebody else, Wendell, mentioned it as well. Okay. So that's cool. Again, more options. So if you're a DIY guy, that might be a great solution, but I haven't. Like I said, this has probably been well over a year ago when I talked to them. Somebody in my community said, hey, you need to reach out to them. Oh, it was when Harmony went under. That's whenever that was. And so I was looking for options for you guys, and somebody mentioned Ava. And so I reached out to them. And at that time, they did not have a solution. So maybe they're like, hey, look, we got an opportunity here. Let's make this happen. So that's good. MW Asus just announced Pro Art 135 micro LED for 200,000. Looks like prices are going down. Good Lord, 200,000. I hope it's going down. Yeah, it could. Everything's going to get cheaper, but it's a matter of time. What's the ideal field of view for a screen? Man, that's a great question, honestly, because there's a lot of varying opinions. Mine's about 85 degrees. No, not quite. It's pretty wide. I'm 9 foot. My eyes are 9 foot from 150-inch diagonal. So that's a pretty extreme field of view for sure. If you just Google what's, the proper field of view, you're going to get something really small, probably from a long time ago. And I don't think that's accurate either. So I think it's kind of in between. I'm wanting to say the last I heard, like ideal, a lot of people are even recommending maybe a 45-degree angle field of view. Does that seem accurate? Have y'all heard that?
No, I don't get very excited about the recommended guidelines because I'm like you, Michael. I like a bigger view than what they specify. So
here's my recommendation is if you already have your projector, put it on a wall, watch some content and just take a look and just see what's comfortable for you. Because there's a lot of guys running, I've never seen anybody put a screen up and go, man, I went too big. But I've heard the opposite a lot. Like, man, I wish I would have went with a bigger screen. And I think, at least from, again, I've never had a 16:9 screen, but a lot of people seem to feel that if you have a CinemaScope screen, throw it in there again. If you have a CinemaScope screen, you can get away with even a wider field of view than if it were taller, because our eyes are used to having peripheral, but we're not used to like a lot of peripheral up here, top and bottom. That makes sense. So that'd be my recommendation. Just try it, but I don't know if there is an ideal. There's some stuff online that suggests, but AudioVice has a cool little thing. When you plug in their room builder, there's a button. I think it's like an eyeball at the bottom, and it'll physically show you, kind of gives you a representation of what that field of view is going to look like. So it's kind of interesting. Not perfect, but it's interesting. Mike says, I just upgraded from 3 PB2000 Pros, 550 RMS to 3.
I think that's PSA.
Okay. PSA 18s, 1900 watts RMS. Cool. After calibrating at 75 to 85 dB, I haven't noticed that big of a difference. I thought I would have more punch, but no post calibration.
Probably not going to notice anything unless you're running hot subs. If it's neutral, it's probably all going to be the same. I mean,
but he's going 3 PB 3000s or 2000s to 3
Yeah, but if he
18
doesn't listen at a high volume and he's just a neutral house curve, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right. You're going to get Ryan's correct. What you bought was more headroom. And if you weren't using the headroom before and you're calibrated like flat at reference, like say you watch your movies at -10 and you did as just an auto EQ calibration, you may not even notice any difference between those subs. It's when you turn it up or you crank on those subs, you're going to notice.
Maybe.
And depending on the calibration mic or how the calibration's working, you could actually run into a cliff and it could go down to 20 hertz and just fall off. So you may not even be getting the low excursion or frequency response that the PSAs are going to be able to offer. I mean, I had problems with room EQ in my room where it would hit like 25 hertz and then go away. But if I did a manual calibration, I was flat down to 9. So room EQ can be detrimental. It can be great, but it can also be bad. So it's really important to measure, see what you can get for expansion down low manually using a calibration mic with the EQ on and with it off. Now, with it off, you also need to make sure, and this room EQ could be doing this too, if the subs are out of phase, they could be fighting each other, or they could just be fighting each other in general. So like I was in the room that I was just in over the weekend, he had room EQ on, but when you add it, he had 4 subs, 1 in each corner. And when you added the 4th sub in, when I was looking at them manually, the 4th sub, when I was looking at what room EQ was doing when I was turning them on and off, was actually having a negative effect on what the frequency response was in the room. It was bringing everything down. It actually created a null like 60 hertz. So don't think that just because you ran room EQ or you've added another sub that you're getting a positive sum. You can actually be hurting yourself by adding more subs in different positions in the room. So it's very important to check doing things individually. Like look at the frequency response of one sub, then add another sub. Does the sum increase? And then check that, calibrate it, and then add the 3rd sub in and see if it then again sums and increases. If it goes down, you know you've got a problem that you need to address, probably out of phase. So a lot of variables there, but my first guess is that you're just a flat house curve and you're not seeing a difference.
Grave Danger says, have you seen the world's best stereo on YouTube? So that is this one here.
Oh no,
so
it's the Jensen JMC 1250. Definitely.
Yeah. So I haven't heard this system. They actually reached out to me a while back. Mr. Fritz, he wasn't doing great health wise. And
he passed
but
away,
I
didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think it was like December of 22.
Yeah.
I think I just looked it up. But yeah, so he's no longer with us, but he had a pretty crazy system. I mean, you can see how tall those ceilings are, and that's just but yeah, definitely go in there and look at that. It's a pretty cool story. Some people had an opportunity to kind of document his journey and have interviews with him. Seemed like a really nice guy, but I have not heard it myself. So, but I'm familiar with it. MW, does your Earthworks mic give you better outcomes over your U mic, or is it noticeable? Is bass corrected better? Why would you buy that mic, Jonathan?
That's Ryan's. He has the Earthworks.
So Ryan, why would you buy that?
The calibration, its ability to pick up frequencies at a lower hertz or lower range.
Okay.
I mean, it's a reference microphone, so I know what I'm getting with it is what I'm getting. And I've noticed some inconsistencies with other microphones because of it. And I've noticed some positives with other microphones because of it. So it's allowed me to use as a baseline to then pit or put everything else against. It's just nice to have. And with rooms that can get really, really low, it's really important to be able to measure really, really low, because if I can't measure it, I can't EQ it. So if it's not calibrated or able to measure those ultra low frequencies, what do you do with them?
Yeah. This is kind of going back real quick about the size screen. JC says I'm at 133 inch, 16 by 9, around 15 foot from the screen, looking at 140 inch, 2.37 at 12 foot. So again, I'm 150 inch diagonal. Mine's 2.35 and I'm 9 feet.
If he's at 133 at 16 by 9 at 15 feet, he's too far away.
Yeah. But he's saying he's looking at doing a CinemaScope screen, 140 inch, and that's 2.37, and he's 12 feet back. Dude, you're totally good. Like,
yeah, I'd say go bigger.
I think you could go bigger. Like
As long as your projector can light it up, go bigger.
Yeah.
That's almost exactly mine. I have a 144 at 12 foot CinemaScope. So I think it's plenty. Like you could go a little bigger, but I think it's a great size. You won't have a trouble with it, I guess is what
it's
I'm
not. Yeah. What I'm saying is you're not going to have an issue with that. Absolutely. You're not going to be like, oh man, it's too big.
Mm-hmm.
Do you EQ your subs before or after Odyssey? Good question.
Before. You should try and get your subs as good as you can if you're going to use Room EQ, so that Room EQ has to do less.
So
as an example,
everything.
Well, not necessarily, but Room EQ will do that because a lot of Room EQs are going to totally ignore your delays anyway. But with things like the Storm as an example, you do your baseline Room EQ first. I don't know how Denon and Marantz do it. I don't know if they ignore your PEQs or not. But like with Storm, you put in your PEQs first. You get it as close to flat as you can with minimal filters, right? You don't go ham and be like filter here, overlapping stuff and doing that's bad. Don't do that. But you want to fix like your huge peaks, try and maybe fix some of your dips, not the big ones because those are nulls and you're not going to do anything. It's just going to be detrimental. But just try and bring everything as close as you can. And it allows Room EQ to potentially solve less. Room EQ in a lot of situations is only going to solve a certain amount. It's only going to correct within a certain range. Outside of that range, and it's just going to try and do its best, and it's not going to necessarily bring everything back in. And it can actually overcorrect in certain situations. So, in my opinion, the closer you can get things beforehand, the better. But that's my experience with Dirac. I haven't done that with
That's correct with Denon and Marantz and Onkyo as well. That you
so they will take in your PEQs.
When I say that, I'm saying external EQ. So if you have mini DSP or if you have iNuke DSP, that kind of stuff, you would want to do that first on your external amps. It's with Odyssey, unless you have the $20 app or the $200 app. Once you enable Odyssey, you don't get a chance to do PEQs anymore. That doesn't work until you turn it off.
Using a mini DSP, you do that because it's going to listen to that and it has to correct for less. It doesn't look at your PEQs or anything. It's listening for it and then correcting based on what it hears.
All right, we're going to do a lightning round here. Sebastian says AVM 70 from Anthem, XPA 3 Gen 3 from Emotiva. And he's wanting to upgrade his speakers. He's got two brands he's looking at, Arundel 1723 THX or the Martin Logan XT100.
I think we already answered his question.
Yeah. So they're leaning towards the Martin Logans.
I'd say Martin Logan.
All right, keep going. Shaw says, which ultra short throw projector? Moderately bright living room. Looking at maybe an AWOL Vision LTV. I'm not familiar with that one, honestly. The best ultra short throw that I've reviewed is the Hisense L9G.
Yeah.
Beautiful projector. Tricolor laser. Really nice ultra short throw. I haven't reviewed the AWOL, so I don't know.
I'm going to say either the Hisense or the Epson.
What do you think about trim knob waveforming? I heard it at the demo at CEDIA. That was pretty cool.
I think it's great. I think it provides uniformity. It provides reinforcement for frequency responses. But I don't really have an objective opinion on it yet because I haven't been able to turn things on and off and be able to decide like how much is it doing and is it close to a manual EQ?
Yeah. Let's see. MW Youthman, I saw the video on testing your JTR subs. Is there no longer any want for more subs now? Yeah, you're correct. So I don't need any more output. I certainly don't need any more low end extension. I'm getting down to flat about 5 hertz in my room with incredible output. The only thing, if I added anything else, it might be, let's say, an RS1 single sub sealed 18 in the back left corner. If I even have the room, I may not even have the width for it.
There's always room.
And not really in my room, dude. My room's 13 feet wide.
Always room.
I have a door. Now, technically, I could cut a hole in the.
Just take out all of your chairs and replace them with subs.
Yeah, I could do that. The rear seats, nobody needs to sit there. Just put those subs in there. But yeah.
Oh, even the front seats. Then
but
put seat cushions on the subs.
Everybody can just stand. It's not a big deal. So yeah, I I definitely don't need more output. I don't need more low end extension. The only reason to add another sub would be to maybe smooth out response for other seats in my room. But I don't see myself doing that anytime soon. Brian says, I want to hear your thoughts on that inflatable Vivore screen, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So probably
Here,
not.
I'm gonna share my screen. That'll be easier way to do this.
Close to the kids in water. So if you wanted to have something outside, inflatable screen, what does that look like, man?
Check this out. This is what he's talking about. He saw that I posted a thing on Facebook here. Yeah. So this is that Vivore. It's a 24-foot screen. It ends up being, I think, about a 240-inch screen.
Nice.
This is with an Epson 5040 UB, that $1,000 type price range projector. This is my house behind it to give you a size reference. Here's my truck. So it's large. We watched some Dave Matthew Band, and we watched some what's that, Big Hero 6. Right. And it looks great. Like, it looks great. This is an entire package. It's stupid. I don't even know how they make money on this. $130, free shipping, comes with a blower and a bag, and you just buy it directly from Vivore. Like, that's insane that you can get that.
Jason said he bought one last year. He hadn't tried it yet, though. He said he's glad.
Well, it's Velcro attached, so it's not. I'm not going to say it's super easy to set up, because it's kind of like confusing trying to figure out how this all lays out. But once you lay it out, there's like a little, if you've seen an inflatable bounce house or anything, there's like a little sleeve that comes off here, and you stick that blower into that sleeve and it just pops itself right up. It's too tall to attach, 288 inches. It's too tall to attach the screen to once it's up. So you got to attach the screen while it's like on the ground. And then, it pops up into place. It's huge. The neighbors are all super, like, they all, give it praises and stuff. So this is $130. You get a $1,000 projector, some audio speakers, whatever you want. And you got a great little outdoor movie night.
So since it's got the blow up, can you throw that like in a pool?
I don't think well, I mean, if you made the sleeve be close to the side, perhaps.
Awesome, man.
That'd be funny.
Watching a movie? Heck yeah. That's cool though, man. I like it. All right, Zapidi, Kaleidoscape, physical media, trying to decide for my home theater. I mean, there's 3 different things. One is cheap, one's illegal, one's expensive. Pick which one you want.
Which one's illegal?
Legally, we're not supposed to rip media. Legally.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So
I think if you have money, the money to do it, Kaleidoscape.
Do you ever have issues with your Kaleidoscape playing anything? Does it ever like buffer or do weird things at all? I mean, I don't have one, so I'm not saying that there is. I'm just asking.
No, never. I don't have issues with it. It just works.
So this is the thing with discs that's kind of frustrating, and nobody likes to admit it, but you can have a disc. Like, this is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is what we watched on Friday night or Saturday night. There is not a scratch on that disc. I mean, it is perfect. It skipped twice during our showing last night, and I don't know why. Like, I don't have problems with my player normally. That's frustrating with discs.
What player are you using?
Panasonic UB420, and it's a good player. I don't normally have problems, but that occasionally happens with just, over the years, occasionally happens.
Yeah.
So in some ways, streaming has a leg up, because you don't usually experience that with streaming.
Yeah.
Well, Kaleidoscape doesn't stream.
It's copying it local.
Yeah. So no, I never have any buffer. It just works every time.
Yeah.
If you have the funds available to buy into the Kaleidoscape ecosystem, it's worth it. You don't have to worry about anything, but it's pay to play. You got to buy into it. Once you're into it, it's not any more expensive than physical media, but phenomenal. You got to buy into it.
So I love this. JC, you say Zabidi is not illegal, but then he says, I had it before it was outlawed.
Well, the only one that's outlawed is the
Ripper.
The Ripper. And it technically is not illegal, but getting the content onto it, how you would do that is.
Yeah. And like I said, it's one of those things in Canada, nothing is illegal. So I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm of the opinion, and again, this is just my opinion. If I buy a disc, I should be able to make a copy of that disc on my own system, whether it's a PC, whether it's a something else. But legally, we're not supposed to do that.
No.
So, and that's why they had to. That's why you no longer can get that ripper. That was a cool thing, man. I mean, you buy the server and it had a disc. You drop or player recorder. You drop it in there and it does all the work for you. The hardware.
I mean, I understand why they banned it because they couldn't tell if you owned the disc or not.
Yeah, I know.
Berserker says I only have approximately 5,000 Linux ISOs.
Yeah.
That's how I'm confused. How is Plex still around with all the sharing that goes on with Plex? How is that not?
Technically, isn't it? The platform isn't illegal.
Right.
It's just like Zappiti isn't illegal. It's the process of getting it on there that's illegal.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So that's the hard thing. And like I said, I know for me, I think there's nothing wrong with backing it up and using, because I would rather have it, not have to swap out disc and stuff and create a playlist with Plex or whatever. But again, it's one of the things. It's a gray area for sure. So, yep, I'm trying, John. He's like, let's go, baby. All right, just a few more. This is it. David and Jonathan, you can bail anytime, man. You ain't gotta hang out. You like, peace out, guys. Y'all wrapping this thing up. You're at 2:20. Hey guys, enjoy watching these live streams every Sunday. Do you think Sony and JVC will release new projectors soon? Not soon. Typically, JVC, Sony, they're usually like on a 3-year cycle. So that would put us hopefully next year sometime. We may see something, but we definitely did not see anything new this year other than firmware updates from JVC. Joel says, how do we know how much toe in is necessary? To
Trial
me,
and error.
I don't know if there's a formula. We're talking very small increments. Inch, try it, listen to it. Inch, 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 inch. And you'll get, and here's the other thing, what I do, toe them in somewhere and listen to them. And then where you're sitting, lean in further and then lean back further and listen to where it sounds the best. So if you lean further in, that means you need to toe the speakers out further because you're basically putting your head closer to those speakers. And then if you lean back and it sounds better, you need to toe them in closer. Does that make sense? Does that sound right?
Yeah, and there's a general rule of thumb also. If it's a narrow dispersion speaker, you probably want to toe it in more. And if it's a broad dispersion speaker, you probably want to toe it in less.
Okay. So there's some general rules, but not like you need 5 degrees
angles
on this speaker or whatever, because it also depends on how far you sit from those speakers too. So just play with it.
And room treatments and all that stuff play into it too.
True.
Boundary gain.
Last 2 right here. John Durante, what is your guys' suggestion on Seaton subs? I've only heard 1 or 2. Some of them are fantastic. So Mark Seaton is a great dude, makes some really powerful subs. I think the one I heard was the Seaton Submersive. I think that's one of his older subwoofers.
Yeah.
That joker had some serious output.
Those we had Seaton Submersives in multiple of our subwoofer shootouts about a decade ago, like year on year, probably a half dozen different ones, and they only didn't win first place one time, and they were second place in that one. So I think very highly of Seaton.
Solid choice, sure. And then the last question of the night. I know you guys have been dropping them in the. Oh no, you missed my question for the night. Sorry, Bruce. Ryan once said that he has smart plugs for his amps to turn them on and off. Okay, I assume that harmed them versus using the button or standby function on them. So you plug in actual smart plugs, kind of like these right here, right? Something similar to that. So could that harm them? Because it's almost like you're pulling the plug from them. Is that any different? Hitting the power?
No. Nah.
That's all the power button's doing.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's like not a sub that's doing something. I mean, I did it on pro amps, and pro amps aren't going to care. I mean, that's why I did it. I don't do it on my Buckeyes because I have triggers, but that's really all the trigger does. So, no, I don't really think it's a big deal.
I was wondering that same thing about amps that have DSP. If there's like any kind of like software risk as far as the DSP processing, I contacted Crown and asked if I could use that kind of plug, and they said, "Go, no problem, go ahead." So, so that's direct from manufacturer. At least for Crown amps, it doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, we are at 2 hours, 24 minutes, 10 seconds. You guys have been amazing. Y'all have asked some great questions. hopefully we've been a blessing to you, helping you out in your home theater journey. We do this every week, so we hope you join us again next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and all the other times prior to that, whatever those calculate, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Jonathan, appreciate you. Ryan, sometimes. I'm just kidding,
Virtually
man.
never. I get it.
So
I'm just
we'll
here.
We hopefully had some updated information on M-Wave. Now that we're done with trade shows, I can put my attention on that and getting the website updated. And we've got to get with Jonathan and the other crew and some things that we're working on. And so look for some information coming soon. So guys, have a great week. We'll catch you in the next stream.